In a world where most people watch movies and then forget about them, these brave heroes join forces to watch them again and then talk about them. Join them in their epic journey as they go back in time, a decade and beyond, to revisit and break down films from a vast array of genres. Do these movies hold up over time? Are they classics? Find out on Retro Movie Roundtable. Starring your hosts, Bryan Frye, Chad Robinson, Dustin Melbardis, Lizzy Haynes, and Russell Guest. Coming now to headphones in your ears.
Welcome all you lords, ladies and knights, to the Retro Movie Roundtable. Welcome to the show where we watch movies and then talk about them. I am your host, Russell Guest, from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and joining me today are a slew of great hosts and great friends from also right here in the Steel City of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Mr. Chad Robinson. How are you doing today, sir?
If you're curious, I fall in the great friends part. The others are going to fall into the great host part.
And from the Lilac City of Spokane, Washington, Mr. Bryan Frye. How you doing, sir?
Evening, folks. Winter is coming.
Did you know you were the Lilac City? I looked that up special for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it did.
He's been to the council meetings.
We're also the people of the sun.
Oh, nice.
That rules.
That's very cool. That's a good Rage Against the Machine song, too. Deep in the heart of Texas, we have from San Marcos, Mr. Dustin Melbardis. How you doing, sir?
Good evening. Tennessee Volunteers are undefeated, and 2012 was a weird year for movies.
This is gonna air like 3 to 4 weeks later. So that's a bold prediction.
Hey man, number one offense in the country. We got to keep scoring.
And our latest and greatest host to join us here is Ms. Lizzy Haynes. How you doing, Lizzy, from Louisville, Kentucky?
Hey there. Excited to talk about some movies and to look back at, I agree with what is an odd year for movies, but
weird.
Well, let's get weird then. 2012, a weird year, I guess people said. So it is the year where Barack Obama wins his second presidential term over Mitt Romney. The Supreme Court holds the core elements of Obamacare and upholds that. Maine, Maryland, Washington become the first states to legalize gay marriage. The economy was on an upswing. Unemployment rate dipped to a low of 7.7%. Stock markets rose. And November was the best sales month in nearly 5 years of U.S. automakers. North Korea successfully launched a rocket capable of intercontinental attacks and scaring the crap out of us. Mars Science Laboratory, the Curiosity rover, successfully lands on Mars. But it wasn't all sunshine. There's some heavy stuff that happened this year, too. 20 children ages 6 to 7. 6 staff members at a Sandy Hook Elementary were taken out in a mass shooting, and there was a movie theater, which this movie podcast definitely feels this one. Innocent people in Aurora, Colorado were shot. And Hurricane Sandy kills 233 people from 8 countries. It inflicts nearly $70 billion of damage. If that's not a bad enough year, the Penn State scandal with Jerry Sandusky was convicted as well of abusing 10 boys and was sentenced to 30 to 60 years in prison. A long time. And the assault in Benghazi was widely blamed on a group of suspected Al-Qaeda group members that were killed at the U.S. ambassador, Chris Stevens, and 3 other Americans were included in that, too. So, Dustin, we need a pick-me-up. I've brought everybody way down. Give us the real important news from the pop culture world.
This is D-List Dustin with your 2012 pop culture update. 50 Shades of Grey is flying off the bookshelves. Me, I don't think neckties are suitable for tying people up. That's just a safety thing. The identity of A on Pretty Little Liars was revealed. Spoiler alert, Dustin doesn't know a thing about what this is. Disney stars, well, they grow up, don't they? Miley Cyrus retired from Hannah Montana. Her haircut was all the rage. Boy, wait till they see what comes next. Demi Lovato jumps to the X Factor. Selena Gomez graduates from Wizards of Waverly Place to Spring Breakers. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie get engaged and start working out how to sell rosé wine. Michael Clark Duncan, American national treasure, who portrayed Kingpin, Manute, Bear, and John Coffey, passes away at 54. Lindsay Lohan and Amanda Bynes are the young celebrity train wrecks du jour. Kate Upton takes the cover of the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, which is apparently still a thing. Sadly, MTV's Jersey Shore ends its run after 6 seasons, the best MTV show since Next. Now, this is Drive Time Dustin with your 2012 music update. Gautier had the biggest song, Somebody That I Used to Know. Carly Rae Jepsen with Call Me Maybe, the lip-sync song of the summer. We got our first and last taste of fun, F-U-N period, with We Are Young. Bruno Mars, Locked Out of Heaven, released early off his album, and I started to like him. after I considered him too immature. David Guetta tapped Sia for vocals on Titanium. Macklemore and Ryan Lewis smashed onto the scene with Thrift Shop. And who could forget Psy with Gangnam Style? Well, I wish I could. In sadder news, Whitney Houston passes away at the age of 48. In rock, Jack White drops his first solo album. Linkin Park releases Living Things. Shinedown releases Amaryllis. And Soundgarden releases their first new album in 15 years. Well, what was Dustin listening to? Lonely Boy from the Black Keys' El Camino. M83's Midnight City still gets regular play 10 years later, as does I Will Wait by Mumford & Sons, Cough Syrup from Young the Giant, Madness by Muse, and the entire Neck of the Woods album from the Silver Sun Pickups. Wow. Now with sports, let's throw to the guy who beat me by a Tua Tagovailoa kneel down in our fantasy league this week, your friend and mine, Bryan Frye.
Da 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 da. All right, well, in 2012, Jeremy Lin became the darling of the NBA with Linsanity. The U.S. women's gymnastic team conquered the world at the 2012 Olympics. New York Giants won the Super Bowl over Tom Brady. Miami Heat won Miami Heat won the NBA Finals over the Oklahoma City Thunder. Poor Russell Westbrook. San Francisco Giants won the World Series over the St. Louis Cardinals, and the LA Kings won the Stanley Cup over the Jersey Devils. Before we go on to our top 2012 picks, we wanted to give a little context for the movies that were big in 2012. So, Lizzie?
Let's talk about the things that really matter, right? Movies. Okay, so let's talk about the top 10 grossing movies of 2012. Starting at number 10, Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted. I sure didn't see that. I don't know about you guys.
No bueno.
What's Madagascar?
You'll find out. You will like to move it.
Number 9, we've got Ted, a movie that I'm sure we'll be hearing about later. Number 8, Disney's Brave. 7, The Amazing Spider-Man. Number 6, will it be in our top 10? Will it not? I don't know. The Twilight Saga, Breaking Dawn, Part 2. Dustin, admit it. That one's in your top 10.
I did not know that it had anything after the colon. I was like, wait, it was...
Justice for CGI Babies, Rennie Smith.
Chad was glad that they split that last book into 2 just to give you a little more time.
It
was that
needed
Dracula Part 7?
It needed room to breathe. That's true.
Number 5, we've got The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. Tolkien fans everywhere were weeping with that movie.
Someone should do a podcast on that movie.
4, we have got Skyfall. Number 3, big year for movie adaptations of novels. We've got number 3, The Hunger Games.
Now I'm
number
hungry.
2, The Dark Knight Rises. And coming in at number 1, drumroll, The Avengers.
And it made all of the money.
Huge.
It made all of the money. Over $600 million.
Jeez, Lou.
All right. So those are our movies that everybody went to the theaters for. But let's talk about what movies swept the award season. I'll pass it over to Chad.
I hate you, Russell, for giving me this rundown.
Did you want to read the pop songs that were big that year, Chad?
But no, I'm glad I don't have a webcam.
Did you want to read my sad news?
Yes. That's
actually exactly what Chad wanted to read.
Right? Yeah.
That's 100% what Chad wanted to read.
Russell said he did this each to our strengths, so you can either hate me and be mad at me, or you can be mad at Russell for his gross misjudgment. Here is a recap of our Oscar-awarded movies from 10 years ago. I have seen an impressive 1 of the following 9 films I'm about to mention, and absolutely none of the Best Picture nominees. Please send your criticism to retromovieroundtable@yahoo.com.
You're bad at your job.
You've got to start dropping Russell's real email address.
Very soon. 1 more year of this. So, without further ado, Best Picture nominees, we have Argo, Amour, Beasts of the Southern Wild, Django Unchained, Les Miserables, Life of Pi, Lincoln, Silver Linings Playbook, Zero Dark 30. Holy crap, they nominate a lot of movies now. Argo wins. Best Director, though, goes to Ang Lee with Life of Pi. Best Actor goes to Daniel Day-Lewis for Lincoln. Best Actress, Jennifer Lawrence for Silver Linings Playbook. Best Supporting Actor was Christoph Waltz in Django Unchained. Best Supporting Actress, Anne Hathaway for Les Miserables. Best Original Screenplay, Django Unchained, Quentin Tarantino. Adapted goes to Argo. Animated goes to Brave. Cinematography, Life of Pi, as well as visual effects, best score. Our best makeup and sound goes to Les Miserables, the only movie I've seen coming up. Best song, Skyfall. Adele's version of Skyfall with Paul Epworth also wins best sound editing. Best film editing goes to Argo. Best production design goes to Lincoln. So if you were keeping tabs at home, I know you were, tally marks for each. That's 4 to Life of Pi with 11 nominations, 3 to Argo, 7 nominations, 3 to Les Mis, 2 to Lincoln, 2 to Skyfall. Our Golden Globe count, Les Mis wins 3 Golden Globes, 2 to Argo, and 2 to Django Unchained. I'm sure I will hear none of these movies mentioned going forward.
Did I say you're bad at your job?
Yes.
I will say that there are at least 4 of those movies on my list.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Shame
Okay.
I'll
on you.
mention some of these movies.
There are some good movies in here, Chad. You should crack open a few of these and
I will not.
This is one of the few years where I actually thought the Academy got it mostly right.
No, and I will debate that, and we will definitely get some of those after the break.
Welcome to the All 80s Movies Podcast.
I'm Bill.
And I'm Jason. And this is the podcast where we talk about the blockbusters, the flops, and everything in between from one of the freshest decades for movies, the 1980s. So whether you're a brain, a jock, a valley girl, or a Jedi, we've got some 80s classics for you.
Do these movies stand the test of time? Are we discovering something new? Is there an 80s movie we're finally watching for the first time?
Join us each week as we dive into the cinematic nostalgia that inspired and influenced a generation. From the hits to the cult classics, we'll discuss our earliest memories, favorite scenes, fun facts, and our not-so-favorite movie moments too.
It's the All 80s Movies Podcast, now available on all major streaming platforms. Please subscribe and happy listening.
we're back, and there's many movies that we did get to, many that Chad did not get to, clearly.
Nope.
But in 2012, what are some movies that, what is a movie that you wish you had gotten to, but you did not? Lizzie.
So I wish that I had seen Life of Pi. According to Chad, it swept the award season, so it was obviously an acclaimed movie. For whatever reason, I just never got into it. So maybe after this, I'll get inspired.
Chad, what about you? What's a movie that you did not see, but you wish you had? Like any of the Oscar Best Picture nominees? Any of them?
No, sir. No,
Any of
sir. I am tripling down on that. Y'all can do what you want.
You don't like their kind.
Y'all can have that.
Right? Thank you. I wish I'd gotten to Sinister in theaters. I bet that was a really, really good time. There are certain scenes that I need an audience reaction to, and Sinister is right up there at the top. As far as movies I didn't see that I wish I had, honestly, looking over the list, I have zero regrets. I maintain this is one of the worst years we've ever covered.
Man,
So-
you are just going straight to negative
It's a
now.
weird year.
I'm
It's not a
allowed.
worse
That's why
year.
you should have given him the shootings, man.
Gosh.
Gosh.
Oh,
Just
man.
bring everyone down instantly. You know
Yeah,
what?
I got the bad news out of the way first, I thought. And then we rolled in Chad's. Holy cow. Wow.
I thought he did a great job.
Brian, pick us up here. What's a movie that you didn't get to that you wish you had in 2012?
I always meant to see A Place Among the Pines,
Me too. I would like to see that.
Place Beyond the Pines.
Yeah.
It's something that I was aware of. I had made a note, like, all right, I need to watch this movie. And then I feel like subsequently, years after, I was like, oh, I still need to watch that.
Dustin, how about you?
I wish I would have seen Brave.
Yes.
Excellent movie.
I
love
think
Brave.
Chad really likes that.
Brian's the bigger fan.
Yeah.
Brian's a
that's-
bigger fan. I didn't see it, and I still haven't seen it. When it comes to these sort of children's movies, I hit a threshold. And then I did the same thing with like Marvel movies, where it became just sort of out of my scope. I think it was a while until I saw another Pixar, which was Coco, which I absolutely adore. So I like these movies. I just didn't see Brave.
I would say, though, if you're going to see a Disney movie about bears, I would see Brother Bear first before Brave. That's my hot take.
Is
That
that
is a
another
hot
Michael
take.
Clark Duncan?
No,
Isn't he in Brother Bear?
I don't think so.
Oh, I can see how you get those
easy,
two confused.
Easy to mix those two up.
Okay.
Easy to easily.
Joaquin Phoenix is a
Whoopsie.
chameleon. He can, if he wants to play Michael Clark Duncan, he can get into it.
He could do it. Yeah.
I don't think that one goes down as well in 2022, but hey, we're in 2012, so maybe you can get away with that still.
Worked
So
for Robert Downey Jr.
We could still do that.
Yeah, you can
back
still do
then.
that in
Dude
2012.
playing a dude, playing another dude.
So, and another movie that I didn't get to that I meant to in cramming for this session here is I didn't get to the movie Goon with Sean William Scott. It's a hockey movie, and it continues to elude me.
There are no bad hockey movies.
Oh, interesting.
There are no bad hockey movies.
D3?
Nope. I'll still watch it.
We're going down our favorite movies from 2012. But what is the movie that you saw that was the worst one? Let's get the bad news out of the way first, Lizzie.
A movie that made me feel like I lost hours of my life was The Lorax.
Yes.
I was really disappointed in it. So I'm, a late 80s baby. I grew up on Dr. Seuss, as many millennials did, and as many children still do. And I was really excited about The Lorax. It was my favorite Dr. Seuss book. It's like a little dark, little creepy, so it's right up my alley, but still has a really important lesson. And it was like they took the character, the Lorax, and the general world, but then there was no lessons. Kind of, it was nothing. It was very hard to understand how they created this movie and why they created it, and it just felt like a complete and utter waste of my time. And I was, it was
Man,
over.
yeah, I can tell this one really disappointed you.
I
Yeah.
was really, really mad.
Now let's go to somebody else who doesn't have any particularly negative feelings about movies. Chad.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
So I should have known by the title, but I'm going to say it just in case anyone has any doubt. I watched the movie Bloody Bloody Bible Camp.
Oh my God.
And
Excellent.
good, and you shouldn't. This is just one of those things where I try and watch 20 horror movies from each year, going back all the way to like the 40s, I think is what I've knocked out. And this was one of the 20 that I watched. It has no redeeming qualities whatsoever. Ron Jeremy's in it. It's
There's
just,
one.
No, it's just a terrible, terrible movie.
So in a year of top 20 horror movies, this doesn't make your top 20 horror movies, even though you only watched 20 horror movies from this year.
I watched more than 20 this year, but yeah, this would be at negative 200. Like,
Yikes.
Chad's top 20 at the moment just went straight to 19.
yes.
So, all right. Now, Brian, what about you? What's your number one movie or I should say your number bottom?
My number bottom movie. I'm typically a Guy Pearce fan, and I'll watch a B movie with him just at a roll of the dice. And I did. It was called Lockout, and it was such a bad movie. Like it was painfully bad. Like it wasn't even like cheeky fun, cheesy bad.
Not likely to appear on the podcast anytime soon, it sounds like. How about you, Dustin? What is a movie that you saw in 2012 that rubbed you the wrong way?
You know, it's important for me to scour the Kung Fu movies, and I did, and I had high hopes for something called Chinese Zodiac with Jackie Chan and a whole bunch of no-names. Now, we start very fast with him, like a heist. He jumps out of a building, and he's got a body covered in roller skates. Not kidding. And he goes zooming down a hill, and I'm thinking, I am in for an action-packed blast. It had set a record for the most live stunts and the largest stunt crew ever in a movie. And I actually turned it off like 40 minutes in. I couldn't handle it anymore. It was the worst I've ever seen from him as far as like his productions, and it just kind of bummed me out. So Chinese Zodiac is a no-no.
The Melbardis walk away. Wow.
Yeah, that's what it was.
My worst movie of 2012 was Bucky Larson, Born to be a Star.
Oh. I have seen all of your worst movies, by the way.
It is a solid half-star movie, if there ever was one. Our top 10 movies are from 10 years ago, which is 2012. We're going to go around, and if somebody has it later in the countdown, you just tell the other person to hold it up, and whenever the person who has it the highest gets there, we'll go through it then. All right, Lizzie, we're going to give you the honor of starting us off here at number 10.
I have Avengers.
You'll have to wait on that.
All right, it made all of the money in the world, and tell us, does anybody else have Avengers?
Oh, yes, you will have to wait on that.
Waiting on that one, okay.
Figured I would. Yes.
Brian, what is your number 10 movie?
My number 10 movie was Pitch Perfect.
Wait on that, sir.
Got on that one too.
Okay. All right, we got some popular choices early on here. Dustin, what is your number 10 movie?
I would be really surprised if somebody makes me wait on this one. It is called Rurouni Kenshin.
Please tell us more.
As I mentioned, I always look for Kung Fu movies, And while I was looking for kung fu movies, I found the best samurai movie of the year. So this is actually based on an anime from the 90s. And even though I was on the Akira podcast, I'm not really an anime guy. This was just one that I happened to remember from Toonami back in the day. And it is about a wandering swordsman named Himura Kenshin, who was known in a big Kyoto revolution for killing a lot of people. He earned the nickname Batosai, the Manslayer. And this is a very, very well done. It's actually kind of long too. It's like 2 hours and 15 minutes. But it is the story of the boogeyman of this particular movie is a wonderful villain named Janae Udo, who, imagine Michael Myers with a katana. Extremely scary, extremely durable and fast. And on top of that, in this world, the Takinawa Shogun, in this sort of Japanese world, there is like a bit of mysticism and sorcery. So this particular scary villain has a technique called the Shino Ippo, which he looks at you, and if your swordsman's spirit is not equal to his, he'll paralyze you. So his goal is to bring this wandering swordsman who has refused to kill, he's left that past behind, his goal is to piss him off so bad that he kills again and tries to get him to fight the ultimate bloody death match. That's all I'll say, but that is less than half of this movie's plot. There's a lot of fun stuff that happens, but as far as like an ultimate evil bad guy, he does a great job, and I think it's worth it for the sort of blade work, the swordsmanship alone.
Nice. Yeah. And my number 10 movie is going to be Lincoln, which was a Daniel Day-Lewis vehicle here. So Spielberg kind of recaptures his magic for me here. He's a little bit hit and miss in his later career, but this is a hit for me. It's very focused, so it's not covering all of Lincoln's life. It is very much about abolishing slavery. And so what it involves to get people from the other side of the aisle to come together on an issue is actually a really big deal then, too. And so watching Lincoln craftily manage that situation with amazing acting performances was just terrific. And Chad, as a history major, you should do this one. This one's good. I would point to this one and say, this is one of those best picture ones that I don't think you can go wrong with.
Maybe I did, and maybe it didn't make the list. You didn't ask me.
Too long.
Did you say Abe Lincoln? No, man, I said, hey, Blinken.
I love that movie so much.
And I did not make a disclaimer before we got into this. Cabin in the Woods, if you are thinking you're going to hear this in 2012, we actually covered it in 2011 because it actually premiered in 2011 at the Button-Namathon Film Festival, which was a little loophole that Dustin hit me with last year and caught me off guard. So you will not hear about Cabin in the Woods on this one.
We have to hold the Button-Namathon in the regard that it reserves.
Right. And so if a movie premieres there, it premieres. So, but number 9, Lizzie.
Wait. No, sir. Do I not get a turn? This is a round table.
Give Chad.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chad. I skipped you.
Give Chad.
You have made it a square table.
Yes.
A part of ceiling fell off
Stop
on
it.
your side of the table,
Man.
and now it's more like a Pac-Man table.
I'm sorry.
He's violated 2 rules. He didn't ask if anyone had Lincoln. Luckily, no one did, and he didn't ask me.
Well, it's up to you to tell me if you have Lincoln or not, but I kind of expect...
You just started in. You barreled in like the Pork Chop Express there.
Okay. Did anybody else see Lincoln that wants to mention it before we move on then?
Somebody would have piped up, you know that.
You got lucky.
Wow, I'm the only one. Well, yeah, okay. Brian, sorry. Oh, no, Chad.
This is why it's my favorite episode. This is why I love doing this
No,
episode.
speak.
Chad, what is your number 10 movie of 2012?
Wreck-It Ralph.
Hold off on that one.
Wait.
Good one.
Yes, wait, sir. All right. Lizzie, start the number 9 round off for it.
Ted.
Oh,
Good.
Wow.
the only
Tell us about
one.
Ted.
I'm shocked by that. Okay, well, a Boston boy who his biggest dream is to have friends. He makes a wish on his teddy bear as a young boy, and his teddy bear comes to life, and they become best friends. And then fast forward, maybe about 20 years later, and his teddy bear is now crass and crude and absolutely hilarious.
And cute, yeah.
Very cute. Peter Griffin, basically from Family Guy,
Very
squished
much so.
into a teddy bear. And oh my gosh, I mean, the movie's just so funny. You've got Mark Wahlberg and Mila Kunis. I think what made this movie part of my top 9 is that there's so many things to remember, but the number one thing that I always think about with this movie is the Thunder song.
Thunder Buddies.
Yes.
The Thunder Buddies.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think the song is appropriate to sing on
Probably
this
not.
podcast, but it is definitely something that I love. Patrick Stewart also makes a semi cameo in this movie, seeing that he narrates the entire plot, but there's not really much to say that I'm allowed to say necessarily on this podcast, but it's just so perfectly crude. And
Yeah.
I loved Shrek, the movie, when that came out. It felt so fun because it felt like a children's movie that was made for adults. And that's a little bit of what Ted feels to me. It's like watching this movie about a teddy bear that cannot keep words out of his mouth and is doing horrible things, unspeakable things to women in the back of the grocery store, acting so crude. It's fun to watch, like the juxtaposition, I guess, of the childlike movie but made for adults. And obviously nothing beats the "I think we're alone now" sequence.
It is funny. It's a good one. I did see this one. It didn't make my list, but it is good.
So two things. This was on my honorable mention list. Yes, this movie's hilarious. I know Ted 2 probably will never make anybody's even honorable mention list, but it seriously ruined F. Scott Fitzgerald for me. Like, I can't get that out of my head now.
Reading The Great Gatsby should have done that for you.
It did it for me.
Yep.
It is like the sequence about The Great Gatsby in Ted 2 is one of the funniest comedic sequences I've ever seen in my life. And I think you're actually allowed to say Dirty Fozzie on our show. I don't think the censors will get us for Dirty Fozzie.
Brian, what is your number 9 movie?
Number 9, I've got Silver Linings Playbook.
Wait on that.
It's a good one.
Yeah. All right. Dustin, what is your number 9 movie?
The Man with the Iron Fists.
You're gonna have to wait.
Oh,
yes! Wu-Tang.
Chad, what is your number 9 movie?
Avengers.
Wait on that.
We're gonna wait. We're gonna hold on.
They don't love you like I love you. Wait.
My number 9 movie is Wreck-It Ralph, previously mentioned.
Wait on it.
Still waiting. Okay, and I will. I will wait, like the Mumford and Sons.
2012.
Number 8, Lizzie.
You just skipped Chad.
No, you got me this
No,
time.
not this time. I actually got him.
Oh,
this
not
time.
this time. Oh wait, you said Avengers.
But
I drift out
but
when he
she's-
talks sometimes too.
She's not paying attention. Like,
I
why
was
do I
excited.
attend these things?
Wait, he's here?
Sorry, I forgot you put Avengers. My
Why
number
am I here?
is
We're not even friends.
my number 8.
Chad said something or other, and now it's my turn.
I put Les Miserables was as my number 8.
It is in my honorable mentions.
I had to. As a film, I can appreciate why this wouldn't be on anybody else's top 10 because if you're just watching it as a film, it's okay. But I remember watching the musical as a young girl. My mom took me to Broadway, and it honestly, in a lot of ways, changed my life. I mean, it made me fall in love with music. The energy, it's one of the most amazing stories truly ever told. Like I've gotten into fights about this with my friends about how the Victor Hugo novel is unbelievable. And so just to see it done on film with Hugh Jackman, Russell Crowe, and these huge names, it's just the source material alone speaks for itself.
It really does.
It really does.
The play is excellent.
I've seen it on stage 3 times. It is my favorite musical. I think I share that with you. In fact, I saw it in Louisville the first time. But the only thing I would have to say about the film production, I think Sacha Baron Cohen as Master of the House, as Thénardier, absolutely wonderful. I could not get over Russell Crowe as my favorite character, Javert. It was rough for me, and it took it out of my top 10, though it is an honorable mention for me.
Wow, Dustin, you stole like all of my thunder because I've seen it twice. It is also my favorite. I was also disappointed by Russell Crowe, and everything that you said is true. And I think it's I think some of the people are great. Anne Hathaway's awesome in this movie.
Yeah.
And then some of the people are not. Like, I don't think Eddie Redmayne's got a whole lot going for him as in this movie as well. But I mean, like the woman who
Marius
plays
doesn't do that much.
Yeah, like the woman who plays Eponine is awesome in this. And it's because they got her from the actual stage performance and put her in
Absolutely.
this movie. So why did you not go do that more? I don't need to know who these people are. Get people who can sing really, really well.
Get Philip Quast.
People who can hang in there and can do it. That's great. It worked with Chicago. You found people who could sing and dance, and it was fun. But that's the magic of what Chicago was. Everybody was really, really talented. And when everybody's not talented, you end up with like Mamma Mia. So this is not my Mamma Mia. This is nowhere near like I like Pierce Brosnan and I wanted him to be good in Mamma Mia, but it's just like, oh, this is not a good moment for anybody. I like Russell Crowe, but it hurt a little bit. And so I'm with you. I love the story. I love the play. I like the direction. Anne Hathaway, when you watch that scene, you're just like, wow, this is a great movie. And then Russell Crowe comes up and you're just like, oh man, this isn't a good look for you. I wish your manager had talked you out of this.
He's one of the most complex characters, and so his whole song and his whole arc is probably one of the most beautiful arcs and the most tragic. And so I agree, Russell Crowe didn't deliver, but not everybody's Hugh Jackman. I mean, he's like the ultimate Renaissance man. He's unbelievable. But the line of to love another person is to see the face of God. Like, it's just so moving. Even with the things that aren't so great about the movie, it still brings me to tears because the source material is just so powerful.
It is. We now need to have a spinoff, a 1-episode spinoff for Retro Broadway Roundtable.
Right.
So.
That's right. That I would definitely.
Dustin, Lizzy, and I are all over this with number 8, Bryan.
Man with the Iron Fist.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, so this is Wu-Tang alum RZA directed. It has a huge cast. The cast is so big it's almost silly. In fact, it also has Russell Crowe in it.
Yes.
This is a hugely entertaining movie. I could see someone seeing this on paper and being like, hard pass. Like, I'm not even going to give this a shot. This was such an entertaining film. Without ruining anything, this is a thrill ride of fun martial arts fight sequences to a backdrop of a motley crew of various fighters being put together to achieve a goal, I guess, without spoilers.
Every fight is a consequential one. The surprises that you get are stylish and they're actor-driven. Special kudos shout-out for Byron Mann, who plays Silver Lion, who I'd never seen before, but he just absolutely nails the sort of 70s style that RZA was going for. The last thing I would want to say about it that you didn't say was the Wu-Tang Clan kind of took its name from an old martial arts movie, and so forever RZA had wanted to kind of give an homage back, and he trained hard. He stars in the movie. It's so great, and I didn't think it would be as good as it is, but this is just a reminder, because Jet Li and Kiss of the Dragon did this first. Kung Fu and hip-hop together is a match made in heaven.
It really is. And I'll also say, I think this is the first movie I saw Batista in.
First I saw him in.
Be grateful for that.
Chad, how about you? What is your number 8 movie?
Ooh, boo, Chad, boo.
No, I like Batista, but his early movies, man. My favorite for number 8 was Frankenweenie.
It's a good one.
Oh,
yeah.
a good one.
I thought that sound was a ugh.
Oh,
yeah, that was,
no, I was like,
such a condescending, aw, he likes that movie.
Frankenweenie.
Sorry, my son was literally just watching that. It's a sweet little movie. It was a genuine awe.
Yeah, it's a gateway drug for children into the horror universe. So this is a fantastic film. It's a Tim Burton collaboration. If you're checking Does the Dog Die, it actually dies twice in this movie, spoiler alert. There are dead pets all over this entire movie, but it's a lot of horror homages. Victor Frankenstein is a character. The little neighbor is Van Helsing. There's Igor. There's some Pet Cemetery references. It's a sweet, touching movie about a boy that just loves his dog and experiments to bring him back to life and accidentally turns the neighborhood cat into a giant bat monster. So, yeah.
And it's done in a heartwarming Tim Burton way.
It is.
In the heartwarming throngs of Sweeney Todd.
The heartwarming throngs of dead pets.
Dustin, hit us with your number 8 movie.
Number 8, I have Looper.
Wait for this.
We got the first call out.
Yes.
Challenge. Challenge.
Challenge.
My number 8 movie is Argo.
You're really going to have to wait on that one.
I'm waiting. Plus, Chad's going to make me wait on that, I have a feeling, too. So.
Nope. I'm not even going to play your game. Just no, sir.
All right. Lizzy, start us off with the number 7 round here.
For 7, I put Pitch Perfect. It is.
Wait on that.
I think it's time.
Denied.
No, denied.
Denied. Okay, we will wait.
That flight was
Denied.
delayed. All right.
Delayed.
The men of this podcast are holding down the Pitch Perfect.
It's true.
I've got nice things to say. What can I do?
Brian, tell us your number 7 movie.
My number 7 movie is Trouble with the Curve.
Tell us about Trouble with the Curve.
I really very rarely go for the heartfelt sports movie, especially when it's about baseball. But I loved this movie. The whole dynamic between Clint Eastwood and, the whole, like, daughter trying to reconnect a fractured relationship, and her understanding, like, what he sees in, being a scout, and then obviously her ongoing pseudo relationship with Justin Timberlake and whatnot, and then how the movie ends. So how they really sum it up, adding the sports piece to, like, almost a warm family, reuniting kind of film. I just really enjoyed it. And there are 3 movies in my top 10 that I went into thinking I'm going to hate this and ended up absolutely loving it.
That's cool.
It's got a great cast.
Matthew Lillard's in it.
Oh, Chad, you've signed Chad up automatically on that. So
Absolutely.
Dustin, what is your number 7 movie?
At number 7, I have 7 Psychopaths.
Hold
You are
off on
going
that,
to
sir.
have to
You got
wait.
it.
All right, Chad, what is your number 7 movie?
Sightseers.
I don't think anybody else has that. Tell us about Sightseers.
This is an Edgar Wright film. It's a dark horror comedy at its finest. It's kind of one of those cult movies that you can't just go around recommending to casual people because they'll look at you funny. But if you're a fan of Shaun of the Dead, it's a lot of fun. So it's a couple going on a road trip, and the boyfriend accidentally kills someone, or does he? And then they get a taste for it. And they just roam the countryside finding people to murder. And it's a lot more fun than that because they're bad at their job, and it's got that British humor to it. So, great film. Check it out.
That's how Jess and I retire.
I believe you. Yeah. Less British, but yes.
They'll turn British just like Madonna did. My number 7 movie rolls around, and I've got Life of Pi.
Didn't even see it.
Oh, never
Nope.
seen it.
So this is an incredibly stylish, inventive movie. There's nothing else like it. It's very original. It combines fantasy, spiritualism, and just being a human being and the human experience. It's a big...
On a raft with a tiger.
It
Right.
is a very ambitious movie. It
It's
is...
a metaphorical tiger.
Something we can all relate to, being
It
adrift
doesn't
with a
count.
tiger on a raft.
So
I mean,
yes,
Charlie
yes,
Sheen can.
but there's so much more to it. It's one of those movies that gets told through flashbacks. It's made well, it's told beautifully, and it's just very, very well presented visually. Even if the story weren't good, the visuals of it are really, really good. It's exciting, it's touching, it pushes a lot of buttons. I might have actually nominated this one for my best picture of those nominees. I felt like this was the strongest of the class, so I was rooting for this one for best picture, personally. Lizzie, start this off with the number 6 round.
I put Think Like a Man.
I've not seen
never-
this.
I didn't see it.
I've not seen this
Did I
one.
never
Remembered
do
it.
Oh man, it's so fun. I put this because I literally think I watch this maybe 3 or 4 times a year. I love this movie so much. It's a classic Battle of the Sexes romantic comedy. So it bases around Steve Harvey as himself. He writes Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man. And it's based
So this is not a Kevin Hart movie?
Kevin Hart
It is a Kevin Hart movie.
Okay.
Yes, he is in it. But Steve Harvey, as himself, is interviewing and plugging his new book, Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, in which he is writing 2 women to help them get inside the mind of a man in order to essentially get what they're looking for from them. There's a storyline of a woman who's dating a guy who's too much of a mama's boy. There's a woman who's dating a man that won't commit. There's dating a man that he's checking all of the boxes.
Doesn't have no bread. He's
He's-
not stacking paper.
Exactly. He's not motivated to, have a 5-year plan. And so originally the women get a hold of this book, and, it stars like Gabrielle Union, Regina Hall, Taraji P. Henson, Kevin Hart. Originally the women read this book and they use the book to be able to get what they're looking for from their men. And then eventually the tables turn and the men realize that Steve is playing them, and so then they play them at their own game, and so it's kind of one of those they don't know that we know they know kind of situations. And it's just complete and total fun. It's a sweet movie, and also coming from it is like one of my favorite songs. It's John Legend's Best You've Ever Had. Married men, play it for your wives and you can thank me later. That's all I'll say.
Oh,
That's always sage advice there. So
spicy.
yeah.
If we surveyed 100 people, how many people would say this is on their top 10 list?
I will tell you guys, this is a real book. For those of you who don't know, this is actually a book.
Yes.
This is a real thing.
Now, Brian, how about you? What is your number 6 movie?
This is where I have Avengers.
Wait on that.
You hold your tongue, sir. All right.
The biggest critic of comic book movies.
This is Dustin before he got off the Marvel wagon, clearly. Dustin, what's your number 6 movie?
Holding down the fort.
You are right about that, Russell. My number 6 movie is The Dark Knight Rises.
That is my number 6 movie as well.
That was an honorable mention for me.
We're friends, two friends having the same pick.
Starring Chad Robinson.
I'm in this movie and it's not in my list.
So is it just
It's
you
just
and me,
you
Russell?
and me, surprisingly.
And we have it right at the same place. Yeah, so it's Nolan Boy at it again. We've got a cool story and a cool villain. Anne Hathaway makes the list again, playing Selena Kyle, never mentioned as Catwoman. We have sort of a cool wrap-up to Christian Bale's portrayal of the world's greatest detective, which kind of doesn't make sense anymore per his portrayals. Just a great culmination to a wonderful trilogy of movies. It's not better than The Dark Knight, but The Dark Knight Rises is a lot of fun. Tom Hardy was very open about like how he gained his size, and he was just like, you know, obviously on top of working out, you don't have that much time.
Visit forhims.com.
Forhims.com for all of your male needs. He was just like, yo, I wasn't trying to look cut. A lot of that is fat, and it's true. You put on fat, and your other muscles will look bigger. I think it was a fun story. It wasn't quite like the Bane story you might have known from the comic books, but that's okay. I really liked it.
Yeah, it was better than that. That's not the Bane story I was used to either, but I really liked it.
Missing a teddy bear.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Christian Bale and Michael Caine and Morgan Freeman, the whole crew, man, I wish we could have gotten more of these. These were so good. And I know Christopher Nolan has an ambitious eye, and I wish he could have stayed in the Batman world just a little bit longer, because all three of these movies are very enjoyable, and I especially enjoy, I'll be honest with you, I watch Batman Begins the most, but I probably watch this one the second most, and I probably watch Dark Knight the least. I don't know why that is, but probably just because it's heavier than these others. Maybe, I don't know. I really enjoyed the Catwoman character.
People also like to do the Bane voice. Like people just love.
Yeah, I do.
Everyone loves doing the Bane voice.
I quote that Bane piece all the time. I'll also say this. They have been doing wonderful things with Catwoman post Michelle Pfeiffer. I mean, It has only gone up.
Halle Berry?
Halle Berry was not a good
in Batman movies.
That's fair.
I thought Brian was just being a complete troll by saying.
So yeah, the Bane stuff though, like we were supposed to be threatened. I was one of the extras in the stadium that's being blown up. Quick tidbit,
that's right.
The biggest bit of CGI ever in movies is making Hines Ward fast enough to outrun an explosion.
He shouldn't be getting a kickoff return. We know that. Your city.
Not that I want to steer people to another podcast, but there's a podcast called Douglas Movies, and around this time period, comedian Doug Benson would take quotes from the movie Lincoln, which I mentioned earlier, and from The Dark Knight Rises.
Yes.
And he would say that, you know, like the voices are the same. And so like he would say like, "It is now time for your liberation." And then you'd have to guess which one was it? Was it Bane or Lincoln? And so it's actually pretty hard to tell with the quotes and the
Bane
voice.
or Lincoln.
So.
Yes.
Bane or Lincoln.
Yeah.
I'm the biggest buck in this lick. Actual Lincoln quote.
All right, Lizzie, let's start off with the number.
No, I will not be skipped again, sir.
Sorry.
I will not be silent.
Sorry, that was a genuine mistake. And not.
I don't believe you anymore.
I know. Conspiracy.
You are not to be.
Let's move on to Lizzie.
Dustin had the same 6 as me, and it got confusing. I'm sorry. That'll never happen again. Number 6.
Oh, he said it.
Yeah, everyone's waiting for the number 5. Dustin's going to stop me here anyways, but number 6 is Pitch Perfect for me.
It's the time.
You can go ahead. I don't have it
No,
higher.
he does not have a high.
I thought you did.
No.
It
You're
wasn't
the
me.
you're the high man on the totem pole, Chad. Highest pitch perfect at
Oh
6.
my goodness! I get to talk about the Barden Bellas. Great. This is a dream for me. You know what though? This movie is delightful. I will sit down and watch it at any time. I was super reluctant to see the movie, but I was the one that actually suggested it to my
Really?
wife. But yeah, I don't know. It was just one of those moods where I'm
He
feeling
was in trouble.
I was feeling antagonistic to myself. It happens where I'm just like, I'm gonna go see one of these
Should
movies.
I cut myself or watch Pitch Perfect?
Right. Yeah, that was pretty much it. So yeah, I don't drink, so I just go watch Pitch Perfect instead. So yeah, wound up loving it. Wife loved it. If you need a summary, I mean, the Barden Bellas are in trouble, and Becca's a freshman at the university. She's a DJ who wants nothing to do with them, but then injects her style and her pop music into the Barden Bellas and makes them successful against all the men trying to hold them down. So
John Michael Higgins and Elizabeth Banks doing the announcers to all this is, to me, the funniest part of this whole thing. Like,
oh, she's a gem.
nobody spectates Glee clubs in this way, and them elevating it to that way. I mean, it was like semi-pro, only maybe even better than that with the announcers. I wanted a whole movie of these announcers.
Yeah, Rebel Wilson's great.
If you actually go into the plot of this and then compare it to the plot of Bring It On, it's basically the same movie.
It is. Yes.
It is.
It is better than that, though.
Oh, no. I'm not arguing that at all. I'm just saying it.
Classic again.
Bring it on rules.
If you go in and actually look at the plot devices that are used to forward the whole thing, even the plagiarism aspect is there. So, like, they're basically the same film. The difference is Anna Kendrick is an absolute gem. She is a treasure for Hollywood. She is probably the second best actor and actress to make it out of Twilight. I literally, I didn't kick and scream, but in my head, I was like, this is the night I die. This is it. And Jess talked me into watching this. I enjoyed it so much. I texted at least 5 people after watching this movie. I said, wait till you're in trouble. Suggest this. You're not going to hate it.
I have something to say. I haven't seen these movies, but if I'm looking for a song and I see that it's covered in the movie Pitch Perfect, I'll listen to it. I'll watch the clip of it because I know that it's well done. And that's the opposite of when I see a song that was like covered in Glee, which is like, no, stay away from that. But the Pitch Perfect versions of like these songs with their dances and performances are like, this has got to be fun at least, and it always is.
The cup sequence is so much fun.
Oh god.
Yes.
I have this movie ranked too low. You guys are making me remember that I like this better. I have this down at 39, and I need to move it up, I think.
You need to.
The time will come for your reckoning, Russell.
Top 39? What?
We forget that Russell does these huge lists.
I even appreciate that Anna Kendrick came out years later and she goes to all those parents, I'm really sorry for Cups.
Yes.
Like, that was hilarious.
No, I like Cups. Cups is catchy.
No, I'm just, but it's funny that she's like, I understand that this song got beaten to death for you.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, 9-year-old girls, like, that's their jam.
We all loved it.
I actually read Anna Kendrick's first biography because I enjoyed this movie so much. It's called Scrappy Little Nobody.
Cute.
Scrappy Little Nobody. That tracks. Fun fact about me: I was actually in an a cappella group in college, and
Awesome.
that was why I wanted to go see this movie so badly. I absolutely loved it. We were probably more like Barden Bella's pre-Becca. I would have loved it if we were post-Becca, but we were definitely a little bit more buttoned up. I went to the University of Kentucky. We were called Pause and Listen. It's a pun, if you guys get it, because we were the wild.
See what you did there.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cute.
That is great.
So on the next episode of Retro Movie Roundtable,
I'll get out my pitch pipe. Woo, ba, 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 ba.
We also just need to sing more.
Yeah.
we could do a sea shanty.
Yeah.
They were big 5 minutes ago.
Overrated.
Well, we gotta share those with Master and Commander this year. So
Yeah, we got a little bit of that.
Lizzie, number 5.
I put The Hunger Games. I loved this movie. This movie for me was, well, to be fair, backing up, this novel was a resurgence for me for my love of reading. And I read it in college. And to me, this movie is just a representation of that. I loved Catching Fire. Mockingjay 1 and 2, I wasn't completely in love with, but the very first Hunger Games was done so well. It's just so good. It's a dystopian world. And then once a year, there's the Capitol, which would be in Colorado. And there in the Capitol, they're eccentric, they're loud, it's beautiful. Everybody's dressed over the top. And then everywhere else around them is in complete chaos and poverty. And once a year, the Capitol hosts the Hunger Games, in which they take 2 young children from each faction and allow them to fight to the death. And the one remaining victor is then given all of the glamour and glory of the people in the Capitol. Just this really wonderful movie and novel story, just about rebellion and love and sacrifice, family. And it's done so beautifully too, because there's chaos and order, there's violence and beauty, and there's just a lot of juxtaposition. And the performances are great. Jennifer Lawrence is unbelievable. Like we were just saying, talking about Elizabeth from Pitch Perfect, and it's so good. It's such an unbelievable movie. I love it.
It was the number 3 movie on the year, so for box office. So Jennifer Lawrence makes her a household name. We did cover her previously on Winter's Bone, and she got an Oscar nomination for that. But here she becomes a very bankable star, and she wins for Silver Linings Playbook for Best Supporting Actress this year too. So
yeah, she does fantastic.
she has a big year here.
It does get a huge boost for a bunch of young girls got interested in archery. I think that's awesome.
It's true. Big year for bow and arrows.
Yeah, that's cool, but I will point out this is a ripoff of the Japanese movie Battle Royale, which came out like 8 years prior and is superior. Go see Battle Royale. If you like Hunger Games, go see that.
Hunger Games was super influential too, because if you watch after this point, there's almost like a genre that like carries the torch, whether it be The Host or The Giver or Divergent or Maze Runner.
Whoa,
I mean,
okay.
all of these take.
You've upset the fry.
Well, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute now. It's just it takes the style and the storytelling of a series of movies and of a certain age of characters. I'm not saying these are all the same, but I'm just saying Hunger Games empowered the next decade's worth of YA novel adaptations that really come out of this one, because it's such a profitable.
Brian, Russell's right. He's correct.
Urge to Kill Rising.
I'm having a stroke.
He's right.
I'm having a stroke. Okay, first off, The Giver. Half the things you listed were books decades before this one was, and yeah, it's not movies that made adaptations into books.
I've upset the fry.
Retro Book Roundtable.
I know, but this is just a bunch of wrong.
It must be correct.
So much wrong in one spiel.
The Giver was done decades and decades before, but I think it created this resurgence to revisit those novels that had this dystopian worlds and then make movies out of them.
That's where he was right.
Yeah, I'm not talking at all about books. I'm talking about what happened in the box office.
I have no qualm with that. Except
that's what
the Host and Giver.
That's what he was saying.
horrible.
SNL did a great sketch of a bunch of just dirty kids in some post-apocalyptic world, and like the running gag is Pete Davidson has like a duffel bag or a sack and tosses it at the main character, and he does it like 20 times. It's one of those great like little fake movie trailers they do. Russell's right on this.
It amazes me that nobody decided to go do Lord of the Flies, which would be like one of the more brutal.
They did in like the 40s or 50s.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, this was the time to go back and do it. So, I mean, these YA novels, maybe it was too brutal. Although Hunger Games, you have kids killing each other too. So, I mean, I think
there's only one murder in Lord of the Flies.
But to what Brian's saying, like the books are older. Yes, I mean, this ignited them grabbing every book from the YA novel tree. I'm wondering how it evaded them. I think this was the ripe time to do Lord of the Flies. Where were the producers on that?
They didn't grab Animorphs.
The books.
K.A. Applegate. K.A. Applegate. We love her here on the Retro Book Roundtable.
The book series for Hunger Games was truly one of the biggest flash fires for literature.
Catching Fire, huh?
Among that age range. I mean, it brought readers back to stores. So Suzanne Collins gets nothing but a nod. But I do feel like every further knockoff, whether it was Divergent or something like that, which again, books were excellent. It degraded what the actual story was. And the reason Hunger Games isn't on my list is because those movies can't light a match to the book. The Divergent movies didn't light a match. They were so much better.
So you wouldn't say it's catching fire? Well, we will have this conversation more times in the future because there were 4 of these movies.
Right.
So.
I think I'm sick that day.
Yeah, I will not be.
It's gonna be a fit. There's gonna be a fit coming soon.
Yeah, I think me and Chad are sick that day.
You're
Remember?
just gonna
Right,
get a
that's
cranky
right.
Fry and an excited Lizzie.
Yeah.
All right. So going on with the number 5 round, Dustin.
This is where I have Wreck-It Ralph.
It is time, isn't it?
This is the first kind of its kind to do all of these different video game properties at once. We've had video game movies in the past. Our cast is, I think, wonderful as far as we already knew them as actors, but providing voices for Ralph, for the princess Sarah Silverman, I can't remember her name.
Vanellope.
Yes, Vanellope. Jane Lynch and Jack McBrayer as Fix-It Felix. I tear up when Ralph is doing something heroic at the end. I love his mantra. I'm bad and that's good. I'll never be good and that's not bad. There's no one I'd rather be than me. I think that's a wonderful lesson for someone who is inherently bad. I'm trying my best to be as good as I can be. So it actually kind of touches my heartstrings, as well as having a lot of wonderful visual video game style gags. In order to get Sonic the Hedgehog in the game, they had to say, all right, Sonic is going to lose his rings. And the people at Sega said, you can have Sonic lose his rings, but he only loses his rings when he falls down. So you can't do it unless you make him fall down, unless you have him slip or something. So I'm like, the people that have these video game properties, like licenses and stuff, are very particular about how you can use them.
This is why he did blue screen, man. He's choking up right now.
Yeah. I'm wiping my eyes.
Chad, how about you? What you had this one on your countdown as well, right?
Yeah, I still quote the just because we're bad guys does not mean we have to be bad guys with Zangief from Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Counseling. I love the bad guy support group. with
Best chest
Bowser.
hair in video games.
Yes.
You know, and
He's
all-
got great chest hair.
The homage to old school video games. Jane Lynch, she reminds me of like a Marine from Halo, but I think they were
Yes.
going more for almost like a Doom type background. A lot of what they're going. Vanellope, Sarah Silverman does not work for me. But she's the worst part of that movie. That's why it's
Boo.
number 10. Yes. Russell's very wrong on all of that. But the movie is just, it's touching and it's fantastic.
It's so touching for me that I refused, as you guys know, I refused to watch the sequel to it.
It's not good.
I have to be careful.
It didn't look like it had the magic, and the concept of it didn't seem as good. This is a clever movie, though. It is referential, but it is so much more than just references. If you're a video game fan or a retro video game fan, this is definitely, probably, I think this is the best movie for layering in all those references to arcades.
I agree with that.
It kind of takes the magic of Toy Story, of what if your toys came alive, and takes it to video games. What if your video games got together? What if Bowser was hanging out next to Donkey Kong for real? And what do they like when the arcade goes down after work? And that's a very funny idea. And I think the voice work in this is top notch. I'll counter what Chaz said. I think Sarah Silverman was amazing for this. I think she's amazing for animated voice work. I think she's awesome. I think she should have gotten more work along the way as an actor as well. She's just such a talented stand-up, and I love Sarah Silverman. She's terrific.
But there is something also really special about the Vanellope character. I don't know how much this was done before it, but Vanellope has a glitch. Vanellope, there's something like when she was created digitally that was wrong, and one of the lessons of the movie was her accepting and owning that she's different, and that makes her special, as opposed to that needs to be beaten out of her. So that becomes a trend. Certainly in the last 10 years, maybe longer, but I remember that being impactful as I took my youngest sister to see this movie.
I feel like 2012 was, I feel like certainly it's better than 2011 when we did this last year. I felt like this was a stronger year than it was last year. So 9 seems low, but it's just a good year. So I guess everyone else is saying it's a weird year, but I like it. Did you see this one, Lizzie?
I did. I actually really liked it. I remember I was a big Mario gal, still am to this day. So I really loved being able to see all of the callbacks. I played Sonic as a kid, and you guys said it perfectly. I just love the idea that the bad guy has an existential crisis and doesn't know what to do about it. And I love an animated movie that can be fun for kids, but also really has a lot of fun callbacks for adults.
Yeah.
Does it so perfectly, where you're having fun. It doesn't feel like you're suffering through a movie for your kids, like you're having a good time too. I loved it.
This was so crafted for the X and millennial generations.
Agreed.
Perfect.
Number 5, Chad.
I went with Maniac.
Maniac on the floor,
No.
and she's dancing like she never dancing before.
You do not want dancing in this movie, sir. This is, if you love post Lord of the Rings Elijah Wood when he's trying not to be associated with the image of Frodo, he's just picking the most insane projects imaginable. This movie is for you. It's a remake of a prior horror movie. It's already pretty good, but the remake, I like it even better. Elijah Wood, he takes the creepiness to a whole other level. He is a serial killer with a fetish for scalps. He makes a friend. He's an owner of this mannequin store, so there's a creepy setting already.
Yes.
Friendship with this woman, and he's trying not to kill her while killing other people. And all you've got to do is go to IMDb and look at the tags for this. I can't say most of the tags on a podcast, but I'm like, wow, that's there's a lot of insane things going on in this film.
So my number 5 is going to be Looper. This movie is a very clever movie. It's well made. Rian Johnson is a filmmaker who I think I'm starting to like more and more the more I see of him. There's a clever storytelling in what he's doing, and there's a certain mood that he casts that I personally like. And Looper here is excellent. Bruce Willis, his late career is definitely stocked full of dime a dozen kind of movies. This is one of the best ones from the back end of his career.
Yes.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt is also excellent in this one. I don't want to give too much about this movie away. I'm just going to tell you need to see this, because I think the more you hear about it, the more it's just going to take away from it. We've got a very good concept. It involves time travel and also looking at oneself and how that you can change over time. It's hard not to talk about it too much.
Time loop movies have come and gone. 2019 was the year for time loop video games. There were at least 6 of them that were big budget. And I won't say much more either. I thought the concept was also very cool. There's something great that Bruce Willis's character says that I had to get out there, because we've talked about how you can over-explain how things work in movies. And he's sitting there in the diner and he says, he's almost talking to the audience, I don't want to talk about that time travel stuff, because if we start talking about it, we're going to be here all day talking about it, making diagrams out of straws, and that's it. It's okay to not understand why it works or how it works. I love it.
It's not a condescending movie, that's for sure. It doesn't spoon feed it for you. So like I said, it's a smart science fiction movie. Frye. Is this not on your list? This seems like a Frye movie.
I enjoyed this movie. It's not something that I would maybe rank. Like, it might be in a top 30.
I had you pegged wrong.
It's an enjoyable movie. In fact, I want to say I rewatched it sometime recently. I will say it wasn't recently enough to not get it confused with Jumper, which when you first said Looper, I was thinking Jumper, and I was like, oh, Russ. Oh,
No,
Russ.
no.
It's like,
No.
Hayden Christensen, come on, man.
Oh, no. Okay, yeah. I had to think. You had to jog my memory with Jumper.
No.
I was kept going, like, that's a Third Eye Blind song. I don't know what you're talking about.
I will understand.
As soon as you said Bruce Willis, I was like, oh, right. Okay, thank God. So,
Joseph Gordon-Levitt with blue eyes. It's weird.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt in a movie that's not about being a bike messenger. That's what I love.
It's not something I probably like haunt about. Like, I'm not even sure if I own it. But it's, if it's something that's on TV, I'll watch it.
I like that you have the lower benchmark for owning a movie, though. So I'm not even sure I would own this movie.
Yeah, that's what I thought of too.
I own some movies I don't
like 3.5
'cause I've done that.
stars. Okay, maybe 3 stars or more. I will own this movie.
Frye's got a Game of Thrones style throne made of the DVDs that he's bought.
Exactly.
He props his bed up at night, like on extra DVDs, like coaster. If you go to Frye's house, like, I need a coaster. He's like, here, You can put it on Bring It On too.
Electric Boogaloo.
The worst thing that ever happened to me was vintage videos and games in college. Because as soon as I could spend like $2 to $3 on a DVD, I was like, I'll give that a shot. I'll give that a shot. I'll give that a shot.
Number 4.
Wait.
Brian, what?
Did we skip you?
Yeah, I didn't get my 5.
No. Okay. No, you go.
Okay, Fry, give us your number 5 movie.
It wasn't Chad. It wasn't Chad. My number 5 was 7 Psychopaths.
Hold on.
All right, I think this was mentioned earlier, but we're gonna wait on that one. Okay.
And we're still going to wait.
Lizzie, number 4 round. Begin us.
What I would call cozy horror. It's The House at the End of the Street.
Ooh, that's a good one.
What makes this cozy? Out of curiosity, I've seen this one. I don't feel cozy in it.
So I would say cozy horror for me is like anything that's not going to give me nightmares. Like something that I can sit and watch and it's scary in the moment, but then when it's over, I'm moving on with my life and we're done. That to me is cozy horror.
I don't know what we don't want to say about this movie, but this movie is creepy. You have yeah.
More Jennifer Lawrence.
It's definitely creepy.
I could see you getting some. I could see you definitely getting some nightmares over this one. I could. I don't know.
No nightmares for me. Anything that's like demonic, that will haunt me forever. But a good little like slasher movie or kind of a mystery of what's really going on. Those movies are like a thriller. They're my absolute favorite.
Jennifer Lawrence is all over this year.
She is. She's had a really big year. So her and her mom moved to a new home and a new neighborhood where they are next door neighbors to a young boy who lives by himself. Everybody keeps away from him because he is unfortunately a final boy, I suppose. He's the remaining member of his family after his sister allegedly murdered his entire family, leaving him to fend for himself. And of course, Jennifer Lawrence takes a liking to him. He's a bad boy. He's quiet and kind of brooding, and a lot starts to unfold, and nothing is quite as it seems. And it's just a really fun, like I said, it's cozy horror.
Chad, is this cozy horror for you? Let's go to our expert.
I'm not going to override Lizzie's opinion. I will say it holds a stunning 12% on Rotten Tomatoes. Make of that what you will.
That is low, by the way. I think it's better than that.
It didn't make my list, but I could see how it would. It's just I go in a different direction for a lot of these horror. Like this is one.
So you go to the house at the other end of the street for your horror.
Yes.
Who goes left?
I go the last house on the left.
That's right.
Ooh,
That's
that one's rough.
What?
Yeah.
That is
very rough.
It's not, it's one of those, it's up high for me because it's just a guilty pleasure. I love watching the movie, but I am definitely in agreement with you, Chad, of the 12%. I understand it. I'm not going to fight you. Overall, the plot's been done. So it's, you leave the movie kind of feeling like, they probably could have done a little bit more with that. But overall, it's a fun ride.
Absolutely. Yeah, their main twist is unfortunately it's telegraphed, and so that just takes away from me. But yeah, Russell just puts me in a terrible position. He's like, "Hey, Chad, tell the only girl in our podcast why she's wrong." Great. Thank you for that. Just make me dislikable.
This is a fine movie. I do have it down like 41 on the year, but I mean, I still liked it. So let's go forward then. Brian, give us your number 4 movie.
Brave.
See, told you Brian liked it.
Yes, he did like it. This is a surprise. You are not normally an animated movie watcher, so
This was my first foray back into animated family movies in a really long time, and I went through another lengthy hiatus afterward. I love Irish, Scottish folk music. I was flipping through the channels when this movie literally first started with Touch the Sky, and I was like, oh. And that song literally got me to watch the entire film.
Nice. The Bear Companions were great.
Yeah, Billy Connolly's in it. Really huge fan of him. And this was just a great movie, and it gives me hope. It gives me hope that I'll find more like this. But yeah, this was just a perfect storm that happened when I ran into it. I'll even say a nod to Robbie Coltrane, who did a voice in this. R.I.P.
Cool.
Small suggestion: if this is doing it for you, maybe check out How to Train Your Dragon.
Yes.
Heard those are incredible.
Oh, I will. I've got all of the things with the little, so I get to experience these all fresh, and I'm excited for that because I get to experience it for myself and through her eyes. So I'm happy to walk into all of this stuff having never seen it before. But I'm also happy that every once in a while, they can drop me a line saying, hey, don't give up on the genre.
I watched Brave for the first time this year, but I watched it with my son, and this was the only time that he's ever looked like he turned to me. He goes, "I don't like that. Turn it off." And me but I mean, he was scared. There's a bear that is, and then it made him scared, and so it was more of a, I don't like that. Turn it off. I want to watch Muppet Babies. Like, I need to feel better.
They get more scared later on, and unfortunately for our annoying little children, they have this insulated world of Cars movies and things with non-threatening, no villains other than inner turmoil, and I hate it. I want them to go back to experiencing, hey, here's your mom, she's going to die in a forest from a hunter, and we've got to explain that and deal with. Here's your best friend who's a fox, and you say you're going to be friends forever, and they leave each other, and it's resolved. It's resolved by agreeing.
Good, Chad. Good.
He watches Land Before Time very regularly. He's watched like Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Like he's watched Nightmare Before Christmas. Like he's got a high threshold for not getting scared. To be honest with you, and
Nightmare is not scary.
And Star Wars, I don't know. This bear and Brave got to him. So listeners out there, watch out. That bear will get you.
I got to say two things about this. The first is that, first of all, Muppet Babies is better than a lot of stuff, so nothing wrong with him saying I want to watch that. The second thing, the second thing is that we covered on for this year, we covered Princess and the Frog like 2 months ago, maybe a month ago.
Yes.
And that was one my little sister. She did not like the use of the bright like neon type colors when they were using the voodoo type undead people from the other side. She was not a fan of that.
Oh yes, the Shadow Man.
Shadow Man. Also, Brave, it's obviously hyperbolic because it's a bear, but it's really sweet when you think about the context of a mother-daughter relationship. So I feel like that's something to look forward to, I think, as well, for like the little girls out there. I think it's just like a sweet movie about love, and it's kind of understanding each other, and it's a good watch. But as I said earlier, if we're gonna watch movies with bears in it, I think Brother Bear is the way to go.
Over the hedge.
I'm afraid that she's gonna finish watching it and be like, "Daddy, I want to climb the house."
Dustin, with your number 4 movie.
It does seem weird that I would have it this high. This is where I have The Avengers.
This is off brand for you, Dustin.
I saw this 3 times in theaters.
That explains how it made so much money. It got all of
I
Dustin's
hadn't
money.
seen a movie multiple times in theaters, many times in my life. In fact, I could count them on one hand. This, Matrix Reloaded, Rogue One, and Pacific Rim. All of those other ones I saw twice. I saw The Avengers 3 times with 3 separate groups of people. Now, I know that we've gotten the superhero team together before. Mystery Men, a triumph, a classic.
Mm-hmm.
The Avengers, for introducing some people that had an established career, but really blasting like Tom Hiddleston to writing a wave that's lasted 10 years. Obviously, we've got our Hemsworth, we've got Johansson, we've got, Iron Man kind of started the whole thing. Robert Downey Jr. does a great job. You have the moment, we're like an hour and 45 minutes in when they're all getting together and the camera is going around their faces, and I think they said Avengers Assemble.
No, they don't.
I don't care if they do or don't. Captain America tells Hulk to smash. What I'm saying here...
He doesn't actually say Avengers Assemble.
That's okay, that's 2 of you that said it. It doesn't matter. This movie rules.
But actually, he doesn't actually say.
Listen, you got to bring your A game here.
Yes, that's what they're saying. And I'm the only one that has it ranked this high. This movie set off the tone for this next big wave of MCU movies, which kind of stinks because it means that like it's to blame for all of this fervor about these movies and what has led to me essentially backing away from them, saying we don't need all of this anymore. The things that are great about it, I think I'll hold on to forever, like the way it made me feel in the theater. This is just so big and wonderful. And I don't think the sequels, though they have very impactful storylines, the sequels don't hit the level that the first one did. So I thought it was really wonderful. The comedy is great. It's the highest praise you'll ever hear from me about a Marvel movie.
Brian's face has been like a roller coaster ride through this. I'm enjoying the webcam because it goes up and it gets high and happy, and then Dustin says something like, "We don't need any more," and then we have Angry Fry, and then it goes back up.
He's absolutely right. This was the shining focal point that let the river break. I'm not going to go out and defend everything Marvel has done since then. I definitely think that everything up until Endgame is highly defensible.
Oh, Brian's loosening his grip on the wagon here.
Well, no.
Oh no, Thor 2?
Hear me out. I mean, come on.
Thor 2
There's got to be a
is
last
bad.
place. I mean, if you
Yes,
make that
there
many
must
movies,
be a last place.
there's got to be a last place. But I think my thing with their new phases and everything is they are branching out into other subject matters. They are making things. This was a very accessible movie.
Yes.
This is meant to please as many people as humanly possible. They're done with that now.
Mm-hmm.
They're going niche. You may love She-Hulk. You may hate Moon Knight. There are so many facets of what they're going into now. And here's the thing. Making more of it is on their dime. It affects me 0% that they are swinging for the fences. So the things that are take my money are going to be take my money. And the things that I don't like, that's fine.
I blame Guardians of the Galaxy for opening this floodgate, because once a talking raccoon got through...
I think they realized they could print money. Once Guardians of the Galaxy hit...
Rocket Raccoon is a very, very compelling comic book character.
It was a hilarious debate because they're like, is the world ready for Wonder Woman? It's like, while Marvel is, here's a talking raccoon in space. This is what we're doing. But DC's like, are we ready for a female superhero? So juxtapose those two.
And not just that, but then they drop a Howard the Duck in there too. And
Right.
all of us nerds are like, yes!
There's so much. Yeah, you guys definitely covered the feeling. I will say, along with the last ride of the Rohirrim, the final battle in Endgame, where there's just this culmination and you hear "on your left," like that will bring me to tears. Same with the last ride of the Rohirrim. I will watch these if I feel like crying. This is what I go to. So to your all's point, I hadn't felt that way. There hadn't been ambition like this before, and so I think it deserves to be ranked and earn the money that it does for pulling this all together.
Wait, now you don't feel like Batman and Robin, where they brought back Robin and George Clooney Batman together, didn't give you this feeling?
That is such a good Batman, and I stand by that is one of the best Batman. I love that one so much.
I encourage you to use the dealer's choice on that.
Right. Yes, please do.
I just might. That one, or possibly, which one's the one before it with Val Kilmer, Batman Forever?
Batman Forever.
Yes.
Still to this day has one of my favorite quotes of a movie. It's Nicole Kidman talking to the Riddler, and she introduces herself and she says, "My name is Chase Meridian," and he says, "And what a fine pursuit you must be."
What a fine pursuit you must be.
It was so good.
Did anybody else have the Avengers on their top 10?
I did.
Yes.
It's my honorable mention at 11.
I love the Avengers. For all the reasons that you just said, I just remember I loved Iron Man, and then kind of watching Avengers together, because they had done a couple of really good origin stories, and you knew that this was leading up to this movie, and so then finally having that payoff and having it feel so successful, it was just so much fun, and you really felt like you got to be part of it because they allowed you to get to know for the majority of each one of these characters through their origin stories. I'll never forget when we were in the theater, there was a woman who was sitting up in front of us, and she would, no joke, stand up and clap every single time.
Yes.
Exciting happened.
Ooh, Lord.
Yes. And she would not just like a couple claps. It was like I don't even know if I could do it. Just like a very quick clap is just this unbelievably, I can't even control myself. I'm so excited. And my husband and I decided to name her because we were like, it just like, there she goes again. And so we ended up calling her Francine. And so we were like, there's Francine. She's getting so excited. And she was so excited. And it was like her excitement made us excited.
Can you find Francine for the podcast?
I wish I could because it was like it's that experience that you go to the theater for, right? It's like you want to be able to absorb the excitement from the audience. And I really felt like we did that. And literally, no joke, every single time we go to any Avenger movies, especially when we went and saw Endgame, there was some version of Francine in the theater that would get up and clap. And I found myself even later on the years clapping as well. And I think Francine left a legacy on us.
Francine, if you're listening, we want you to come on the show. Now that's not your name, and we will call you by your proper name, but you know who you are.
Not your name. Francine, wherever you are out there, I just thank you for your service. We love you.
And Chad, what did Othello do for you?
Oh my goodness. I recommend seeing Othello in a...
It's just O. Excuse me.
Yeah,
just
O, in a low income area because, that story was new to some of the audience. I was familiar with Othello. I knew where it was going.
Oh, like Julia Stiles. Oh,
Yeah.
The climax of the movie did not light a match to the climax of the audience
Yes.
at the climax of the movie. And Chad and I are just sitting back there like,
Odin was an eagle. One day I'll fly too. And the guy goes, straight to jail,
mother.
There was genuine outrage.
So, Dustin, this is the final four here. What's your number 4 movie?
It was The Avengers.
Oh, that was you.
So anyway, this is one of the few movies that I'd actually seen several times in theaters, and I can count it on one hand.
That's true. Well, it was so long ago.
We've just looped back.
Yes, you did just loop back.
Looper.
All right, my
We
number 4.
loopered
My
back.
number 4 movie.
No, you promised me, sir.
You already went, didn't you? Didn't you?
You're going to kill Bryan Frye. You promised me, sir.
You didn't do the Avengers?
No.
No,
I thought you
was
and
the
Dustin had number
highest.
4 at the same time. Sorry. What is your number 4, Chad?
Can somebody pass me a Wellbutyrol inhaler, please?
I mean, Lizzie's not even going to let me talk about this because it's sinister.
oh, you gotta wait.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
You do have to
Yep.
wait. Okay. Well, that's appropriate.
Now you can go, you liar. You sit on a throne of lies.
Last time.
Brian's down for the
Last
count.
time.
Okay. I'm going to put you up the front of the line next time just to help that out. So
Just to mess with your brain even more? Because
Yeah.
it's not handling 5 well right now.
you'll start us off in the number 3 round. It's going to be fine. All right.
Just had to walk it out. We're good.
This is this is 40 is my number 4 movie.
Oh, you gotta wait.
I'm going to wait. All right.
Wow.
All
Wow.
right. Lizzie, what is your number 3 movie?
My number 3 movie is Savages.
I don't know what Savages. Tell
I
me
don't
about
know
it.
that.
I like that movie.
It's a good one. Okay, so you've got Aaron Taylor, John Blake Lively, Taylor.
Just call him Kick-Ass. His name is Kick.
Oh, thank you.
That's
that helps.
right.
Ah.
So the 3 of them are in a throuple. That's right. You heard me correctly. They are 2 men that are in love with
Spicy.
a woman. It is spicy. There are some spicy scenes in this movie. And they also happen to be, so they're Ben, Sean, and O, Chad, if you would believe it, are their names.
Truly.
And so the 3 of them, Ben is a horticulturist and he's, crunchy granola, love, woo woo kind of guy. And then Sean is, an ex-Marine,
Ex-military. Yeah.
wounded and, this big tough guy. And so she's kind of, it's like the two together, they create one whole man, if you will. And they also have a very successful marijuana business that they run together.
That came out of left field.
Right.
I was on board. I was like, okay.
So they've got their very popular marijuana business that they've got going on, and then they come home to O, and they have their little throuple life that they've got going on, and then everything kind of turns on its ear when the notorious drug ring from Mexico comes up to them and kidnaps O in an attempt to send a very strong message to Ben and Sean about partnering up with them. And so the movie later, it's just about the 2 of them trying to decide, do we be peaceful or do we go ahead and, turn it up to 11 and go get our girl back? And it's this really interesting movie because the drug ring look at their throuple and they think that they are savage. Yet when you, as an audience member, you look at the things that are happening in this drug ring, and you would say without a doubt it's savagery. I mean, the way that they're torturing, and I mean, Benicio del Toro plays one of the,
I'd call him the primary antagonist.
and he is absolutely spectacular in this movie. I mean, he is so scary, he is ruthless, but it's just amazing how each person has a different vantage point on what they would consider savage in the movie, and it's just honestly, it's a really fun watch. It's definitely a little jaw dropping, but I recommend it. If you haven't seen it, I think you got to check it out.
A drug movie with Benicio del Toro. I mean, come on.
So this is actually an Oliver Stone movie. It's probably his movie that got.
This is not making it better.
And Chad got off the bus.
I'm out.
It's probably a
Spicy.
film that's gotten the least amount of press. It also has John Travolta and Selma Hayek in it.
Yes,
so,
that's right.
Chad
Yes.
is back on the
Yeah.
bus.
I'm confused, but yeah, intrigued.
Everybody is just so spectacular in that movie.
I would say the only thing that kept this out of a top 10 for me, because I actually really do like this movie, and I watched it again recently. There are some sticky parts of this that it affects its rewatchability. I came back to this for the first time in 5 or 6 years just because I was like, okay, I haven't watched it in a while, and I remember there were a couple kind of sticky parts that are a bit of a hard watch. But no, it's a compelling film, and I don't have Chad's Oliver Stone hate. So no, it's a good pick.
Yeah, that's a great one. Now, oh, wait, Chad, you're supposed to be moved to the front of the number 3 round, so I don't forget you.
He's
Chad,
already forgotten.
Is he?
you go.
21 Jump Street.
Wait for that, sir.
Yep, figured.
Honorable mention.
Brian, what is your number 3 movie?
Skyfall.
Wait for that. Yes. Dustin, what is your number 3 movie?
The Master.
And Commander?
Good choice.
The Master. This is a movie that I know that Bryan Frye likes Philip Seymour Hoffman. This is a movie that starts you off with Joaquin Phoenix, who's playing a character, Freddie Quell, who is having a hard time getting through his post-military life. Interesting portrayal of a character with some substance problems, but also just some communication problems as well. He finds himself not shanghaied, but like he wakes up after a wild night on a boat. He doesn't know where he is, and he gets led to Philip Seymour Hoffman's character, who is an author, a scientist, a doctor, who we learn soon after is kind of creates this cult of personality around him, and then you realize it's closer to the cult than it is to the personality. It's not the plot that drives this, it's the acting. So we've got Amy Adams here as well. And there's a lot of smaller bit characters that have just a small amount of time on screen, but I just think that this was something, it's a very artistic movie. I think this is one of those where the resolution of it isn't one of those that's wrapped up well with a bow, and it leaves you wanting. It leaves you waiting for something else. I think it does drag a bit, but when it comes to like performances from actors, sometimes that just vaults a movie above other things that I would rewatch, like quicker. So I think The Master was great. I don't want to give too much away. You should watch it.
I missed this movie. I didn't see it.
Brian's like, it had all the makings of a movie that I would watch. One, it was a movie, and
Well, if you
two, it was released.
No, I mean, if it had come up, like when I was doing my research for this, if it had come up, I would have been like, oh yeah, I never saw that.
So, Chad, what is your number 3 movie?
Still 21 Jump Street.
That makes up for one of those.
It does not, sir.
Yes. I'm terrible at this, by the way.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
And Chad, number 3.
All right, Chad, you're number 3.
This is all getting cut. So, yeah. So,
21 Jump Street.
wait for it, sir. That's a good one, though. It's coming up a lot. So, my number 3 movie is going to be Skyfall.
So is
Honorable
mine.
mention.
Yeah, honorable mention for me as well.
Nope. You don't get to go.
Not yet. All right. I was waiting for that.
Delayed.
Let's go, Lizzie. Start us off with the number 2 round.
So that is where I put This Is 40. I love this movie. I think it is so, so funny. Russell, you had it on your list, right?
Number 4, yeah.
Yes, yes. So Leslie Mann, Paul Rudd. It's like a pseudo sequel to Knocked Up. They don't actually ever mention Katherine Heigl's character, but it's the same, Pete and Debbie and the same girls. They're about to turn 40, and honestly, I just think it like perfectly encapsulates it. Obviously, it hyperbolizes it, but it's just like married life and like what it's like to get older, the kinds of things that you face when you get older. But like, there's this unbelievable scene where Pete and Debbie go to this little retreat, and they do all the fun things that you do when you're away without your children, and then they get home, and the second that they pull into their driveway, their youngest daughter walks outside hysterically crying, and like they had just like lovingly held their hands, they're sitting in the driveway like, and then the second that they look over and see that their daughter's crying, Paul Rudd looks right over and just goes, "We're home." and that's and I don't know if you guys, my kids are 6, 2, and 1, and I have absolutely felt that, where like you completely just like feel so rejuvenated and relaxed, and then you walk in the door and it's like complete utter chaos, and like it just wipes away, and I'm tense again, and it's it's just so funny. The only other part that I will mention is that again, my oldest, as I mentioned, is 6. And so we're just starting to get into this new territory of parenting where it's all about conflict with kids at school. And there is an unbelievable scene in this movie where,
With Melissa McCarthy, right?
yes, it's Leslie Mann's character. She goes onto her oldest daughter's iPad to see that she's getting into an argument with this young man. And so she goes to the school, confronts him, and she's like, "Yeah, oh yeah, well, you think you're cool? You're not. You look like a miniature Tom Petty." And then she just starts like blowing hot air into his mouth and just like honestly verbally assaulting this child, which normally is not funny, and I would absolutely not recommend it. But I will say
It's funny
it's
in this
funny
case.
in this case because as a parent, she does the thing that every parent I think has the impulse to do, but is able to use self-control and restraint. But watching her just go for it is amazing. And I would be absolutely lying if I didn't say that I have thought about telling children that they look like a miniature Tom Petty when they.
It's part of the best things
Yes.
about movies.
Well, first of all, I like Tom Petty a lot. So, I mean, you could
Yes,
call somebody
exactly.
worse things.
You absolutely could, but it's like that hyperbolic. Yes, exactly, Dustin, where it's like I would never do that, but to watch you do it gives me great pleasure, and it is.
It's
Yeah,
both sides of that coin too. It's when someone in the horror movie does the wrong thing, or it's when someone in a comedy movie does like the thing, or I guess I should say either fails to do the smart thing or does the thing you would never do. It's part of the entertainment.
yes.
I love that.
Chad, have you done this one?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. The bathroom scene is what sticks out to me
Yeah.
on that one. But as couples, it's like that's the ultimate give up. I haven't reached that point in life just yet, but people have told me it's coming. Melissa McCarthy is very funny in here.
So funny. And there's like an amazing scene where they're all like at the table talking to their kids about all the devices that they need to take away. Like, there's so many other things that you could do. And Pete's like, you could take a tire and a stick and just run down the road. And just the looks on their faces. It's
This movie is
unbelievable.
just littered
It's
with
so
quotes.
funny. Yes, there's so many.
Fry, have you done this one? This doesn't seem like your kind of forte.
No, Jess and I definitely did. In fact, we've had 2 real stable connections on both Knocked Up and This Is 40. The first one in Knocked Up was when the wife is like, "Oh yeah, you get to be the cool dad. You just don't give it." And Jess in the theater gives this slow head
turn of the
turn
head,
look
yeah.
at me, and I was like, "Yeah, that's gonna happen." But then later on, when we saw This Is 40, and we watched the principal scene where
Yeah.
the 2 of them just tag team Melissa McCarthy and just tear her apart. Literally, like while we were watching it, without saying a word to one another, she just goes, and we just do a fist bump, and I was like, we would crush this. Like, this is what we are made for. Please put me in a parent teacher.
Scene from Uncle Buck, but elevated. Yes.
Yes. Right. So anyway, loved both of them. It's great that they kind of did a subtle segue to This Is 40. It's a fun movie.
Funny People is a messy 2009 movie that Judd Apatow wrote that is sprawling. It has no structure. It goes on
It's
way
not
too
funny.
long. It's not funny enough. It's got, yeah, exactly. It takes talented people and it doesn't utilize them very well. And it's like Judd Apatow regrouped, circled the wagons, and said, I'm going to make another movie that's really long, it has no structure, and it's going to bring in a lot of funny people, but it's going to work and it's going to be hilarious. And it's a lot of my criticisms of Funny People are actually present here. It is very meandering. It is very low structure. It is, like Lizzie said, it's a snapshot of life at 40 in a very dysfunctional version of it that elevates it to the point where it's funny. Because everything's funny when it doesn't happen to you. Or maybe it is happening to you, but it's funnier when, Paul Rudd and Leslie Mann are doing it and they dial it up. But Judd Apatow has made so many people's careers go for them in Hollywood, and it only continues to reciprocate, and those people want to come back and be in his movies. These are Judd Apatow's actual children in the movie, and Leslie Mann is his wife. He definitely overachieved. And Paul Rudd is kind of written in as a better looking version of himself in there, and there's a lot of autobiographical elements in this, and its comedy construction is incredibly rooted in arguments that he and Leslie have had as a married couple. And because he's putting his life out there on display quite honestly like that, it is really refreshingly honest, and there aren't a lot of movies like this, and it would be hard to reduplicate it because of the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that Judd has lived in his life and his own kind of maybe a little bit neurotic, kind of tilted view on viewing the world, to be able to then capture that and tell it. He's a very good writer. I just ran him down for doing Funny People. This is much better than that. And this is better than Knocked Up too, I will say. So I thought this was going to be higher for me, but I just like 3 more movies and more. Number 2, Brian.
My number 2 is Argo.
Okay, yeah, Argo. The best movie of the year according to the Oscars, and Chad Robinson, right? No?
Nope.
No?
This cast is one of the best that has ever worked interconnectedly with each other. Ben Affleck, Bryan Cranston, John Goodman, and Alan Arkin in this are phenomenal. The fact that this is based on a true story is even better. This is one of the best espionage films I've ever seen, and I love true, like, Jean Le Carré style espionage movies. This is a fun movie as well as a serious movie. There are parts of this that are
funny,
hilarious.
Yeah, they're very funny.
Yes. This is one of those films that is very strongly deserving of its Oscar. It's something I watch fairly regularly.
Yeah, this is my number 8. It'll suck you in. And in fact that it has real life events behind this, you just gain this appreciation for it. The cast is tremendously good. So the story on its own is like interesting, but how they tell it, I gotta give Affleck credit. He directs this, and I gotta say, this is probably at the top of the Ben Affleck mountain. I think this is the best that he's done.
This is his debut, wasn't it? I believe his directorial debut.
I meant as an actor, director, anything. I think this is at the top of his mountain.
Oh, Daredevil, sir.
How could
Dogma.
we forget?
Dogma was phenomenal.
Dogma's a great movie. This is Ben Affleck's obvious best effort.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's a different level. This movie was start to finish, everything that was a part of it, from the costuming to the scoring to the dialogue to the acting. I mean, this was a fantastic.
I think this would have made my top 10 if I saw it.
I certainly would recommend it. I think it appeals to a lot of people.
Yes.
Dustin, number 2.
Prometheus.
That's a good one.
Oh heck no.
Great minds think alike.
Man.
This is my number 2 as well.
Oh, boo, both of you.
We are aligned.
Really?
We are aligned today, Russell.
Yes. Yeah. Why don't you take the... Wait, nobody said to wait on this, right? Chad? Okay.
I'm booing them.
No, I think Chad was booing us. He must not like it.
Chad, were you booing because you had this one at number 1 and we were stealing your thunder?
No, because she doesn't know how to just move sideways instead of running in a straight line at the end of the movie.
Get over it. Dustin, tell them why this movie is great.
Well, we won't talk about what happens at the end of the movie, but This is a platform for a lot of cool things in this world. This isn't a crazy spoiler, but it's in the Alien universe without being focused on the xenomorphs. We have a cool creation story. We have the reason for being far out in space. There's some very tense and frightening build-ups towards something. And I think what's so rewarding about this movie compared to other things in the Alien franchise is that in this one, you are rewarded with something that's new, something that's scary because it's scary and new, and you don't know what to expect from it. We have a Fassbender role portrayal, to go down in time as not Walter, as David the Wayland robot android. I thought he stole a show.
He's even better than Bishop, I think.
Whoa!
He's
Whoa!
better than Bishop.
Yeah. Fassbender's good.
Yeah, that's a big thing to say. But Noomi Rapace and then Idris Elba. I don't like Idris Elba's performance here. Listeners of the podcast will know that fake Southern accents are the way to make my bad list, especially if they're not any good. That I can forgive. This movie was very fun for me, and it's a rewatchable one for me.
It is a rewatchable one for me, too.
Chad, I can be there in 33 hours. I can be there in 33 hours. We can take him out back and just put him down.
It's the Luke Skywalker moment of amazing. Everything you just said was wrong.
So, Chad, you don't like this movie. Clearly, you like Aliens 3 and other Aliens movies more.
Yes, I would take Aliens 3
Wow.
100 times over Prometheus. Dustin saying, hey, this is an alien movie without the xenomorphs is the most frustrating phrase you could possibly come up with.
Was it a prequel? I mean, isn't it it's an origin story?
Yeah.
I don't need an origin story for Alien. They're scarier without being explained. They pop out of people's chests. I don't need engineers, designers. This is a trend in movies that I hate, where they take something that's really interesting and then they midi-chlorian it up. And they're like, hey, the Force, you know how it connects things? It's this mystical force. No, it's actually bacteria in your bloodstream. I don't
That's
need
a false
that.
equivalency.
It is not, sir.
Nah, it is.
And
wow, I got Chad heated right now. Yeah.
We had this issue last year with another movie that I presented, which was that I liked Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows.
Andrew did not.
And the response was, it's not Sherlock Holmes. And I said, all right, well, let's take the movie and remove the word Sherlock Holmes and have a cool movie about a cool detective that moves in bullet time. Would you like it then? And so my question to you would be, if you knew this wasn't an alien movie, could you enjoy it?
I genuinely found next to nothing tense or enjoyable about this movie. I just felt incredibly bored.
Well said.
Even without that backstory, I never felt the tension. I really was. I was bored, and the ending was lame.
I'm actually probably going to be the closest thing to middle ground we're going to have here. Honestly, the only thing that I really took umbrage with is Lance Hendrickson. His Bishop is my favorite thing about Alien. And honestly, I have it in my notes about my honorable mention from Prometheus is, I think that if you're going to cast someone new and fresh in that android, I'm totally down with who they pick. But don't be like, that's better, because that's not okay. I like the story. I'm okay with it being a backstory. I actually would have preferred if they had left it more ambiguous and left it to just an outsider perspective saying, this is who made the movie. Is it an Alien prequel?
Yeah.
Like, they should have left it ambiguous. Like, I think that would have made it a better film, too. I love Naomi Rapace. I was coming off of seeing all of the Scandinavian Girl with the Dragon Tattoo movies.
Yeah.
So I was super into her being in this. Fassbinder's, I'm a fan. This has actually got a really, really compelling cast of people that I'm hoping that in the future actually do get more work. Guys like Sean Harris, who went on to do some of the Mission Impossible movies. So I don't hate this movie. I understand Chad's issues with it, and I think that if they had just left a little bit more up in the air, a little bit more ambiguity to it, it really would have helped its mystique. And that's what it lacked.
Well, I'm with Dustin. I'm a fanboy on this one. I love it. I actually found myself grabbing onto my seat. I was so excited to see what would happen next, and an actual white knuckler where you're like just so drawn into what was going on. I dug the world. I dug the character Waylon's fascination with this obsession with knowing where we came from, why were we created. And so to Chad's degree, I don't need to know why. Well, this is what happens when you ask why so hard. I think Alien had fallen off. I think the franchise had lost its luster. I mean, because Cameron and Ridley Scott did such a good job with the first two movies.
Russell, did you hear that knock on your front door? That is Chad with a knife right now.
Well, I mean, Ridley Scott, the guy who made the first one, came back in and put some integrity back into the franchise. And
And they were pulling it away from the Alien vs. Predator stuff that they were worried they were going that direction.
They should have leaned into that direction. Alien vs.
No.
Predator was great. The first one was great. The second one was terrible.
No. All right. This is great. No, now we look.
Spicy.
There's some great fragmentation here because I'll actually side with Russell on this one. I'd rather them go hard prequel than what they were doing with this Alien versus Predator nonsense. The only thing I wanted from that series is more Weyland-Yutani like backstory. Like that would have been fine. All of that AVP nonsense was boo.
I think we were set to get that because Ridley Scott was ready to do like 5 movies. And
yeah, he said he wants to do them all.
Yeah, Covenant didn't have a big box office return, so I think they took the keys away from him. But I'm curious to know what else he was going to do personally.
I'm going to sit like firmly in the middle of this because, yeah, I love the Alien franchise. It's one of my favorites, and I don't mind Prometheus. I very, very thoroughly did not like AVP.
I'm just going to fight everybody. Lizzie, you want to tell me that Aliens is better than Alien?
No.
I'm not here to tell you that, but I'm solid with Frye. I think, well, it was an honorable mention for me because I feel like as far as the zeitgeist is concerned, it had a huge impact on just the culture. I mean, because Alien, the whole Alien franchise is such a huge franchise in and of itself. So to have this movie, it had people so excited, and I think people who love the Alien series, and then it reinvigorated that excitement for people who had fallen off for, and then I think for new people who had never even heard of the Alien franchise, like younger people, I think it got them, kind of excited into it as well. So for those reasons, it was an honorable mention. I love the Alien franchise. I also liked Prometheus, but I don't think I would have. I'm not going to argue that it was better, but I do agree with what Frye said, that I think having a little ambiguity about it. It's like that Inception where like you want to be able to talk about it afterwards of like, is it really spinning, or is this the reality? Is it not the reality? Is it a prequel, or is it something completely on its own? We just don't know. And
yeah.
I think that would have been cool. But regardless, I like it.
There is something too I forget until I watch something. What did we cover last year that we ended up ranking so high?
Sunshine.
Yes. And I realized I didn't know it until watching Prometheus, or like rewatching it for this podcast. I really love the sort of adrift in space genre. Every single time, I'd forgotten that, like, oh, this is kind of my jam. So that's another thing that like it awoke in me, like, oh yeah, this is kind of spooky in space and something I like.
I'm the exact opposite. That I hate space. Space actually terrifies me. So to me, if it's like the only way for me to watch a movie in space is if the storyline is like top notch. So that's a nod to Prometheus.
Jason X.
Chad, you need to know. Chad, you need to make yourself feel a little bit better here. Give yourself a little bit of a hug. Have a Coke and a smile, and give us your number 2.
I'm so cranky for a movie I love now. You all, your lucky bloody Bible camp exists.
We can talk about Hunger Games more if you want.
Yeah.
I don't have nearly. There's no anger there. It's just like, it exists. Anyways, 7 Psychopaths.
I think it's time.
My number 2.
Lead the way, Chad.
Oh my goodness, I love this movie. Christopher Walken, Sam Rockwell, Colin Farrell, Woody Harrelson. It's just
huge cast.
It's bananas. Colin Farrell is a writer, and his buddy Billy, he kidnaps dogs for a living, along with Christopher Walken, and they accidentally kidnap Woody Harrelson's Shih Tzu. Things go far worse from there. He's writing a book on psychopaths, and so they're kind of playing into these characters. There's like the Jack of Diamonds serial killer. It is prime insanity from Christopher Walken, and I can't recommend, even people that may not like dark comedy violence are probably going to like this movie. This is one that my wife and I watched together, and we both had a really good time.
I need to see this movie. It was on my to-see list.
I don't know if you guys remember this or not, and this is for the listeners who don't get privy to this, but we all have this text chain, and Dustin asked like, "Oh, what's something I absolutely have to watch for 2012 in preparation for this?" I don't even think it took me 5 seconds to type it.
Mm-hmm. That was the right answer.
This is a highly overlooked movie that really a huge percentage of people have not seen, and that is unfortunate because it's that good.
Yep. I mean, when you start a kind of gang war by kidnapping a Shih Tzu, sold.
This is funny, or is it more of an involved crime kind of tilt?
It's funny.
It's darkly funny.
Yeah.
It's very, very darkly funny.
Right. Yeah.
There's really fascinating storytelling because there's the title of the movie, Seven Psychopaths. You get several stories, and they're all presented in either flashback or through retelling, and they're all fun. And in between the fun stories are, we move the plot along, we learn a little bit more. I think it's at an hour in that we learn who the seven psychopaths are. So it takes a little bit, but it does ramp up in terms of intensity and getting to the standoff, getting to the part that's like the culmination. So he's writing something that's building, and you're kind of along for the ride. And then the individual performances are great. I think you've got Harry Dean Stanton, who doesn't utter a line.
Yes.
His character of the Quaker is so cool. And you've got a Bond girl in there, who, Olga Kurylenko, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Quantum of Solace,
yeah. So, like, you've got her. You've got some fun stuff, and it stacks fun things on top of fun things, and then it's also really quotable too. With anybody else that has seen the movie, all of the characters, particularly Christopher Walken's character, it's very fun, deserving of the high rank that it was given.
Nice. I need to see this movie. So let's, on this note, here at the end of the number 2 round, go through our honorable mentions before we go up into our top spot. Lizzie, what were some of your honorable mentions?
Okay, so my honorable mentions were Man on a Ledge, The Dark Knight Rises, Chronicle, 21 Jump Street.
Good choices there. And Dustin, what were some of your honorable mentions?
Thought The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey was fun. I'm glad we covered it earlier this year. Nobody else mentioned Snow White and the Huntsman. I liked it because it beat my very low expectations. Les Miserables was an honorable mention. Can't forgive Russell Crowe's singing performance. Moonrise Kingdom. Django Unchained didn't meet any of our lists. At least maybe not yet. I don't know.
I thought Moonrise Kingdom would have been on your list for sure, Dustin.
You would have thought it would have been on mine. It's probably the only year I would intentionally leave a Wes Anderson movie off the top 10 list. And then my 16 was 21 Jump Street.
Got it. Yeah. And Brian, what were some of your honorable mentions?
I had Chasing Mavericks, Cosmopolis, Red Tails, 21 Jump Street, and the documentary Room 237.
Ooh, that's a great documentary. I loved that.
Yes, it is.
Is that about the Shannon?
It sure
Yep,
is.
it is. I put that in. I know it's not technically a film. I just felt like, given what we do, a documentary really wasn't.
Right.
But I definitely wanted to bring it up.
Some great series.
Chad, what were some of your honorable mentions?
Piranha 3D.
Wasn't it Double D for this
3
one?
Double D.
Yeah.
I prefer the title 3D because it makes it seem less painful. But
But it
3D.
wasn't. But it wasn't at all.
yeah, there are 2 different versions, and it's called Piranha 3D or Piranha 3 Double D. It's a fun D movie. Danielle Panabaker is in it. I am. Danielle Panabaker's in it from The Flash. It's a lot of fun. A manager from Waiting is a sleazy pool manager.
Your opinions on Prometheus mean nothing now.
I thought he was messing with me. Like, I thought he was gonna go through this. Like, my picks are Bloody Valentine, the Lorax, and go all through the ones that we picked for our least favorites at the beginning. Bucky Larson.
You know what? Piranha 3D made me smile at least once, which is far more than Prometheus has done in the 10 years of its existence.
Man, Chad, like, is there anything else that you want to put on that made you happy from 2012? Just Piranha 3 Double D.
No, you get 11. That's
11.
That's it.
All
That's
right.
all this lousy year gets.
Wow, you really are down in 2012. I don't know what you're gonna do when you get to 2020.
I feel like when you went through the sadness events, that about covers my feeling of 2012.
Wow.
Horrible, horrible things.
And some of my honorable mentions include The Avengers just barely missed my list. Les Mis, Seeking a Friend for the End of the World. I like Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. It is awkward that they cut it into 2 pieces. And Zero Dark 30 were some other mentionables.
Who's got bad opinions now? Still me, but also Russell.
I want to mention something here. This kind of came up out of nowhere, but we all went pretty deep into the box office with some of our picks. The Master, The Man with the Iron Fist, Seven Psychopaths, and Killing Them Softly are all 4 in a row in the box office at 131 through 134. Like very, very low in the box office, but we all gravitated right around that spot.
You know, Dark Knight Rises, Hunger Games, Skyfall. So, I mean, the top 4 movies all made our list anyway, so. All right, Chad, you've been forgotten too many times
You're
tonight.
back.
You get the number one seat here. Yeah.
My number 1 is the only movie I saw out of the list of movies I read off for you guys earlier. It is Skyfall. I love this movie. I think it's the prettiest Bond movie that's ever been made. Just some of the cinematography is outstanding. It's a fitting end to Dame Judi Dench's tenure as M. Javier Bardem as the villain is excellent as well. It's all undone by the movie Spectre that follows that. Spectre is a very frustrating movie, but Skyfall is right up there. I think I like Casino Royale better, but it's kind of a 1A and 1B for me as far as the Daniel Craig era.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very high for me as well. I had this up here at my number 3. Would have thought it would have been higher, but Prometheus is so darn good, and then there's another movie after that.
It didn't make my honorable mentions because I haven't rewatched it, say, for the one time. Skyfall is the one where he goes Home Alone style in his house,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember thinking that was cool until I heard someone call it that, and then I was like, oh no, is it lame? And I never got a chance to go back to it. I generally like Bond movies, and the color of Skyfall is something I can't, like, it can't leave my brain. The Dartmoor grays and wheat color stuff, the overcast, that's just in my memory.
Yeah, Sam Mendes is not somebody I'm always a huge fan of, but he nails it here. This is so visually attractive. It is. I think it took them a while to find their stride with Daniel Craig, and they found it here. To be honest with you, like this is when it felt like a Bond movie, and it did not disappoint. And Chad's right. Judi Dench in her last movie, boy, she delivers a great performance. Ralph Fiennes is fantastic as well, stepping into this. I mean, it is so much of what a fan of Bond wants, and it is a well-made movie in its own right. Even if you just don't like Bond, I think it's a great action movie in its own right. But it's just
a great song.
Yep, everything. Daniel Craig's not my favorite Bond, but this is still very high ranking for me in my Bond's countdown, which we should reference. We did a countdown of all of our favorite Bond movies. If you're a fan of James Bond, it is a must listen. For your ears only.
That's good.
I didn't have Skyfall on my list, but this was the very first Bond movie that I have ever seen.
Whoa!
Oh, I know. I had never seen any Bond movie before, and Skyfall was the very first. I watched Casino Royale after Skyfall because I was like, okay. Like I saw it in theaters, and once I saw it and realized, like, okay, I'm kind of here for it. It's interesting, a lot of action. There's some romance. I gave Casino Royale a try, and I liked it. But I am not the target audience for James Bond. I will 100% say that.
We learned that through Moonraker.
You sure did. You sure did. But
You will be. You will be.
But at the same time, Skyfall felt just like it. I mean, you said it perfectly, Chad. I mean, it kind of just felt like art. Like it was just such a beautiful movie, just very well done that you just can't help but appreciate it.
It was my number 3 movie, only eclipsed by other espionage films. This was a great year for espionage, guys. Like that was
year.
like my big takeaway from doing this list. Skyfall is my second favorite Bond movie of all time. Goldeneye still holds that first place. It is a gorgeous movie. And no, even hearing what you're saying about the Home Alone piece with Daniel Craig, that
You just combined two things I love. I love Home Alone. I love that movie. And so we're not gonna listen. I just want to be clear. This is not a knock on a movie. If you say it's Home Alone but with something else, I want to see that movie more. We covered Home Alone really early in the show's history. Go back and listen to it. Russell's a big fan.
I think Javier Bardem is one of the best Bond villains of all time. They scored with that.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the dichotomy and the introduction to Ralph Fiennes' M.
Yes, very cool.
If you prescribe to the theory that I hold, or the belief that I hold for Daniel Craig Bond movies, of actually showing the entire career of James Bond within the span of 5 movies, that is the M you're used to with the Sean Connery Bond. So, like, that is the middling to the end of his career M. So, I love what they did with the collection of films. I understand how polarizing they can be, but Skyfall, I feel, is the one thing that out of everything they did there, and probably Casino Royale too, but Skyfall is the one film out of all of those that if you don't think that is a compelling film, then we really don't have anything.
All right, Lizzie. Number 1 movie from 2012.
Number 1 movie. I bet Chad can guess what I put. I put Sinister.
Yay.
This was a resurgence for me. So early aughts, it was all about like how gross can we possibly get with horror movies. You know, you've got Hostels and Saws and the first Saw movie is good, but it just kind of got progressively grosser and more grotesque. And I feel like then there was, the paranormal activities and kind of more found footage resurgence. And then I feel like there was Insidious that kind of brought back this piece of Sinister of kind of more into like the paranormal and the occult in a really interesting way. But I think Sinister got it right where this movie is utterly terrifying. I love every bit of it. So you've got Ethan Hawke. He plays Ellison. He's a true crime author who has a writer's block, moves his family into this home that has a really dark, dark history. His family is completely unaware of the history of the home. Upon unpacking, finds some old Super 8 films and watches them, and it shows this really dark, grotesque killings of these family members that used to live in this home. It's super dark and grotesque. There's a small piece of like a symbol in each video, and he does some research and realizes it's just kind of this version of the boogeyman, and everything seems to unfold once he realizes that. And it is so well done. And I believe the movie, they only made it off of $3 million. And what they were able to make from that is just so spectacular, in my opinion, because it's so scary and the twist is wonderful. So the boogeyman's character in this movie, his name is Bagul, and that's the first time that I've been able to say this, his name out loud, literally in 10 years. I saw this in the theater with my husband. I think at the time he was my boyfriend and possibly my fiance. We're in the movie theater together seeing this movie. We come out. We are night owls when it comes to the movie, so it's pitch black. We sit in our car and he looks over at me and he goes, Bagul. And I literally start crying. I'm not even kidding. I actually start bawling in the car. Movie gave me, talk about nightmares. This is not cozy horror. This movie gave me legit nightmares for some time.
I'm not sure we agree on cozy horror. Like I'm still struggling with that adjective.
Oh, I can watch teenagers get slashed up and just that's fine.
Chad knows what I mean. It's cozy horror. It's great in the moment, and
then I'll go to the movies
afterwards. Yes, but this. So this movie represents like that resurgence of like movies that truly terrify you. I'm not getting grossed out. I'm getting like shaken to my core, and it just did it so well.
They did a scientific experiment of what is the scariest movie of all time, and it's worth noting that this came out as number 1.
Wow.
I don't agree, but Lizzie mentioned the music. The music is so unique, you never forget it for the scenes of these home movies. They're Super 8s, and it's fantastic. A lot of people had a problem with the end. I do not. It's a dark movie, but it's very, very good, and I'm glad to see it represented highly. I do think I don't even know what I would say is the scariest movie of all time because I've just kind of numbed myself to almost everything. But I do think it's one of the most frightening movies I've seen in years.
Bagul. I have to tell y'all that I hadn't seen it, and my friend told me how scary it was, and he told me the name of the demon, and that just became the thing that I would say whenever I'd walk into the office and like accidentally spook him. Bagul.
All right, to Dustin, it's time. Yeah, number 1.
Oh boy, Silver Linings Playbook is my favorite movie from this year.
Good choice.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah,
I don't know. Did anybody else have it on their list?
Number 9.
I didn't have it on my list, but I did enjoy it. I mean, I certainly it was in my top 20.
I didn't see it.
Describing this movie plot wise it's one of those things where if you see a funny clip that's like 40 seconds and then you tell the story about how funny the clip is and it's like 3 minutes long and you realize, oh, I should have just shown you the clip. I don't really want to try to explain Silver Linings Playbook. The title's confusing. The plot is wild. Like the things that are trying to get accomplished all at once. You have Robert De Niro playing a father who's got kind of a gambling issue. You have Bradley Cooper playing a guy who just got out of, some people would say, the loony bin. He just got out of some pretty intensive mental inpatient therapy. And then you have Jennifer Lawrence playing a character who I guess she would describe just has her own issues. But I mean, it's part of what's written on the box. She's a young widow who lost her husband. I realize after looking at my list of top 10 movies of 2012 and just thinking of the things I like, yes, I love wheelchair chases. Yeah. Yes, I love turmoil and despair. I like when things get dark. And I think of that great line from Game of Thrones that, the book series and it was done in the show as well. But, Tyrion Lannister says like he's got a soft spot for broken things.
Mm.
And I realize that is like the key to a movie that I will enjoy, to see people who are either aware of or unaware of their social problems, whether it's medication or alcoholism, whatever it is. There's just some inner compassion in me that cares more about the people who have it rough and who have a tough time getting through their life compared to a superhero who doesn't. And we're getting to the point now we're kind of mixing them together. But Silver Linings Playbook, with the way that this is the one that Jennifer Lawrence won her Oscar for at 21 years old. And Bradley Cooper's portrayal of someone who, his anxiety and his violent swings are believable. He plays a character that's very believable. And so what's unfair to every other movie is that the way, like, to my heart is like, show me a broken person or show me someone that's going through something, and I'm going to rank it higher than the quotes of the world, than the people that have everything going for them. This movie is super feel good. You will laugh out loud at some things, and other things are just very dramatic or just like, can't believe that was the decision. Silver Linings Playbook, favorite movie of the year.
And I actually completely agree with Dustin's take on this. If you show me someone over the age of 35 and they don't have some baggage, good for you, man. Like, I watched this movie and every single member of the family, everybody around, everybody judging them had something. And you look at things being like, you call it first world problems or whatever. If you really look deep, things affect people differently. And this movie is about compassion for how people's lives have been affected by stimulus and things around them. And the fact that it got as much publicity as it did made me happy, because this is an enriching film. This is an understanding film.
How did Jennifer Lawrence cram this much into her 2011? I want to know. Like,
She got game.
she was on this countdown 4 different times, I think,
She killed
She's
it.
got game.
She had a good year.
and an Oscar to show for it.
This is one of those films that if I were doing an introduction to empathy theater, this would be Exhibit 1A.
Brian, do you agree with me? Like describing like what the culmination, like the most dramatic thing to the last 30 minutes is, like if you described it, it wouldn't make sense. Like you can't describe the movie.
I think it's an interesting tale of two people who have been handed some very difficult swings in life. And their life is not going the way that it's supposed to go. Somebody's in a failed marriage and the other's in a marriage that had their husband die, and they both have struggled mentally with it. So it's a very aware film in today's times to talk about mental wellness or, mental health issues, as well as, with two broken, like the catharsis that you can have from two people who struggled together. And I think that that's what made this movie so good.
I think it's one of the most tropeless movies I've ever seen.
That's fair. Lizzie, have you done this one?
Oh, yeah, I love this movie. I completely agree with everything that you guys are saying. It's one of those movies where, like you were saying, Fry, how it's like an empathy 101. I just think it is a good movie to put a lens to the fact that you just don't know what other people are going through. And
Yeah.
everybody has a different threshold for stress and a different threshold for trauma in their life. And I think it's about not always putting yourself into that situation and being like, well, that wouldn't necessarily affect me. It's teaching you really how to be like, well, that's not really what matters. What matters is that this person's going through it, and just kind of teaching you to be kind, but also in doing it in like a really fun slice of life way where it still manages to be light and fun. And at the end of the day, you kind of just root for this messy family, and
Yeah.
all families are messy. I mean, yeah, I love that.
All right. Brian, what was your number one movie? 2012.
I went with Zero Dark 30. I rounded out all my espionage. It was basically Brave and then all espionage.
This is a heavy movie.
This is a heavy movie, but man, it is a fascinating. I absolutely love this film. Jessica Chastain destroyed this film. And I don't mean that in a negative way. She crushed every part of this character. I started following Joel Edgerton's career after this movie. This movie did so much. And I just, like, I still find it fascinating. I'll rewatch it and I'll be like, man, I didn't notice that the first time. This is a very intellectual, very interesting movie about CIA's pursuit of bin Laden.
It is. And it's a narrative on how you feel about torture as well.
It does not pull punches.
Yeah, it's a hard movie to watch. For me, it doesn't have rewatchability because it's not a pleasant watch, but it is a thought-provoking watch. It is a powerful movie, and it is well performed. And to me, it leaves you with questions of like, how do I feel about these issues? Or maybe I feel a little bit differently about some of these things now, having seen this.
There was a post-World War II quote when they were talking about Ian Fleming and John le Carré, he's the guy who wrote Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, where they were talking about if you want a Hollywood idea of what spying is, you read Ian Fleming. If you want what spying is really about, read John le Carré. And I feel like both Argo and Zero Dark 30 give you a real taste of what true espionage looks like.
Jessica Chastain got nominated for Best Actress here. I probably would have given her the Oscar over Jennifer Lawrence. No disrespect to Silver Linings Playbook, but I felt like Chastain probably deserved the Oscar here. She gets one later, but I felt like she got chipped here. My number one movie is 21 Jump Street.
That's a good one.
A lot of people have this in their honorable mentions, but to me, I have watched this movie an awful lot. I'm not as big of a movie rewatcher as probably some of the people on this podcast. I know like Fry goes back to his favorites frequently. This is just one that I've enjoyed watching with so many people. And I quote it with so many people, and it's just become part of one of those things that helps shape your humor. And I did not really like the source material of 21 Jump Street when this first came out. I thought this was going to be another one of those, we're going to dig up a piece of programming that I'm not sure this generation really connects with. Like when Starsky and Hutch came out, and it's just like, how many people really know what Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson
right,
are doing in that movie?
Chips.
Hawaii 5-0.
Yeah, who's the target audience for this? You're not making the people who watched the original one happy, and you're not making the people who don't know what it is happy. You're not bringing people into it. But 21 Jump Street took the framework and turned it into just the goofiest cop movie. The connection to the past movie didn't really have a ton of payoff there. There was a little homage. There's a little playing, there's a little tip of the cap to it. But I mean, it is very funny, and it's not done in that sort of way that the original one was. This is a wild divergence of the source material. And I would actually say that more transformational versions like this is something I'd like to see more of. This was a really refreshing thing to see in Hollywood. I mean, it launched Dave Franco's career, I think. This was big for Brie Larson as well. And I think this was just one of those movies that I think a lot of people saw, really enjoyed. I have to say the sequel is also quite funny. Not as good as the first one, but I mean, it's got an amazing cast, and it keeps the laugh train going.
Ice Cube is fantastic.
Just gonna say the exact same thing. Ice Cube makes that movie.
In the same way, I would make the comment that Puff Daddy made.
Just Diddy now, sir.
Diddy makes
Sean Puffy comes to you.
Just Diddy. Excuse me.
Spicy.
Just Diddy made Get Him to the Greek. Like these little add-ons, like they really brought it for this. Like this was all of these things involve the same or one of the same actors. But
Korean Jesus.
Oh my goodness. I dude, these movies are hilarious.
This also launched because Channing Tatum was like a heartthrob in Hollywood.
Mhm.
He did. I think Magic Mike was actually a 2012 movie, and which none.
It was my number 17.
Yeah, which none of us mentioned.
Can't believe none of us had it.
Right after Piranha 3 Double D, just for balance.
Spicy.
That movie is spicy. I talk about energy from the movie theater. I saw that movie in theaters, and there were lots of screams in that movie theater. But that is for a different day. That is a different tale. But he was, that, and then he was like Dear John, and he was kind of trying to go for this more like romantic comedy vibe. This was like the very first funny, silly role that we've ever seen Channing Tatum in. And I feel like comedy is really hard. I mean, that comedic timing is not something you just either have it or you don't. And he's hilarious in this movie.
Yeah, it turned my opinion around on him. Like, okay, I like this guy now.
Yes.
This is great.
Agreed.
It's like as soon as Robert Pattinson started bashing Twilight, it's like, okay, you're cool. Hey, check.
You have the right to be an attorney. Did you just say you have the right to be an attorney? Well, I mean, technically he's right. It's a free country. You do have the right to become an attorney. To watch these two misfits that are just, one would pick on the other one in high school, be stuck together and watch them like galvanize, and they are so not what each other has. It is typical buddy cop movie, but it is very funny to see these two gelling together and being excited to work together when one of them was such a nerd. I mean, I relate to the Jonah Hill character of like watching him walk through the hallway with his big baggy jean code jeans and the ball chain necklace and the wallet chain. I mean, this is mean. It's funny to watch him go back and everything changes, and to watch all the kids and guys like don't care about anything, and like they don't like what was cool then. And Channing Tatum, and he was like, I don't understand this school. He's like, if I had just gone to school like 5 years later, I would have been popular. I know, it's messed up.
It is really, really good. And I love the gym coach. He has amazing comedic timing as well. He's just like that whole sequence when they're taking whatever substance it is that they're chasing after. And there's like on a different sequence, and like as they're talking, he like becomes an ice cream cone, like slowly melting as he's speaking. It's like stupid, silly fun.
Culminating in violent action too, which is fun.
Is this the one where they have the conversation about one strap with the backpack?
Yes.
Yes.
I can't. I always have been a one strap backpack man, and I can't pick up my backpack without thinking of this movie. This is an everyday thing.
You're telling me I was a messenger bag kid?
No. Chad, what were you, a briefcase kid?
Rolly backpacks all the way.
Brian had to constantly defend himself because he would get accused of having a man purse. And he'd go, "It's a satchel."
It's a man's bag.
Yep,
Yes.
I was that guy.
The one shoulder bag, yeah. That's really hard on your back for textbooks. I don't know how you did that. I remember thinking that at the time.
I didn't take books
See,
in class.
Channing Tatum just didn't care. It's so cool. He's so cool. I wasn't.
I took notes and referenced it later. I didn't.
I hated getting so much homework that you had to put the clip around like your waist, like on your backpack. Just like, dang it, my shoulders really hurt. I'm actually gonna wear the waist strap and be a dork and do it.
Messenger
How
bag.
weak was your spine?
Messenger
man?
bag.
What is this? You need third support?
I don't know, man. When you put nothing but textbooks in your backpack and the whole thing's like sandwiched to the point where the zipper's not zipping and you still carry your like binder extra in your hand, it's heavy, man. I don't know.
Russell was like 102 pounds in high school, so that's
He's 102
I had
pounds
him-
now.
I was a small guy. There's no doubt about it. So
I had a Mead notebook and a Pilot G2 pen. That's what I took to class.
Mead 5-star.
With a Rorschach test notebook.
woo! This has been great. This has been the longest one of these ever. But that's what you get when you get the whole round table together. So, yeah. Well, thank you, all the lords, ladies, and knights of the Retro Movie Roundtable, for listening. We invite you to reach out to us. We want to hear from you. So subscribe, rate, and review to us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast. Give us a like on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at @movie_retro. We're on Instagram. Email us at retromovieroundtable@yahoo.com. And producing and providing this podcast is fun, but not free. So we invite you to support the show at our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/Retro Movie Roundtable. Any contributions will be much appreciated and go towards making the show better for you, the listeners. So as always, thank you for listening. Be good to each other and watch more movies. Brian?
Chloe, don't worry. It's just God punishing you because you're a ginger.